What's up, y'all? This is Wheezy. If you enjoy this content, please remember to rate and review. Ever since getting banned on Google, it has been a true headache to get back up and rolling. So please share with like-minded friends, rate and review, and enjoy the show. Can't thank y'all enough. Much love. Headache to get back up and rolling, so please share with
No tall building had ever collapsed primarily due to fire. But that's exactly what investigators believe happened to the 47-story World Trade Center Building 7 on September 11th.
I was watching with my roommate. It was approximately several minutes after the first plane had hit. I saw this plane come out of nowhere and just scream right into the side of the Twin Tower, exploding through the other side. And then I witnessed both towers collapse, one first and then the second, mostly due to structural failure because the fire was just too intense.
The third total shot hit the president's head. His head could be seen to move violently forward.
But they're really criticizing science, because I represent science.
3, 2...
All right. What's up, y'all? This is your man, Wheezy. Welcome to the What is Truth podcast on the Daddygate channel. A very rare time, but it is a special time because I have my man, Mr. Johnny Vedmore. How are you, sir?
Yeah, man. You know, I'm good. Life's all right. It's all right. It's my third summer in a row at the moment. So, like, I went down to the Southern Hemisphere for the past 6 months, got back up to Cardiff, and it's sunny again now. So life isn't all bad. I'm burnt for the fifth time this year or something. So that's pretty good. Good going.
And you are in the UK, right? So,
yeah.
How's the weather like over there?
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. It's just got beautiful now. It's just got beautiful. I've been sitting outside the house with music blasting. There's like a park outside my house, so all the people we know really well. We're like it deep in sort of proper community, not like your community organizations and everything's got to be down. But we know all of the heads, and where I live, like in Cardiff, I moved in to this place. Me and my brother from another mother. Moved into the place we're in probably about 10 years ago or something, 11 years ago. And it's such a nice community. And all around is like the people who run the community center. We know them, but we don't do anything with the community center because the kids who need to be in the community center are too busy out in the street setting fires and stuff. And then, like, we know all of the police around here. They're all trouble. Like in our local community, we of course interact slightly different with the police than I do when I do audits and stuff. So, you know, we try and bring them. They're completely and utterly idiots, like. And then out there on the streets, we've got all the people who live in the community, and every single one of them we try and talk with. Like we try and be fundamentally the thing that can link everything up. And of course, having a dog walking around, meet all the dog walkers. So I live in a really nice, it's a sunny community in the heart as well. And it's funny, it's like Britain's full of concrete places where everybody lives right next door to each other. There's no like gap between the wall. You know, someone's house ends here and the new house starts there. There's no little bit of space, little island to call your own or anything. In Wales, in South Wales, it's all terraced houses. So it's all like little tiny houses that are really slim but have like 4 to 5 bedrooms and a massive family living in there. And then next door is another one. Next door is another one. They're like 2 meters wide, and it's all very crazy. So I've been really enjoying getting back into a bit of community life here. It's so much different than when I'm in Chile and when I'm in South America, because of course, you know, people think South America is like really backwards and stuff, but most of it is pretty like is communities are basically the same wherever you go. People,
it's just different, man. Just a different way of life, right? I think unless you've been to those places, your preconceived notions sometimes get the better of you, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's just stereotypes and generalizations, man. And there's good spots everywhere, there's bad spots everywhere. That's just the reality of it. And And in some places, the CIA controls a little bit more than in others.
Well, one thing I'd say that is a comparison that can make, in Chile, like most of the food produce is the same price, if not a little bit more expensive than it is in Britain. So just a little bit more expensive. And in Britain, the minimum wage is in British pounds, £10 an hour, which is probably about $12 to $14, depending on what day it is. And in Chile, the minimum wage is £3. So, the food's the same price, but the cost, the people don't get enough money to be able to buy that food, most of that food. So that food's bought by an upper class, really, people who are above the grade, and people are struggling in places like that still. But when we come over here, people are struggling in the same way. There may be £10 an hour minimum wage, but most of the people don't have jobs, and they have to struggle to survive and support their unemployed friends and families. And the government cracks down on employment benefits and all of this, and they keep crunching until basically no one's got anything to live on. And it is very comparable. The life you'd live in somewhere in South America is very comparable in pluses and bonuses. When you equal it all out, it's about the same. It's about the same. You got the same. You got the same. So like you got cheaper electricity bills. You only have to pay certain taxes. The healthcare system is quicker. There's got all these bonuses down in South America. It's weird. It's not what you get sold, and that's because you have to be sold this Western ideal. If you're going to be all in, no kissing. No, if you're going to be all in and you just don't care about the consequences about our civilization, our Western civilization, you've got to believe everywhere else in the world is a shithole as well. You got to believe that there's no like comparing them, but the comparisons are quite clear. There's real big benefits to living down there, and there's real big benefits to living up here. That's the way it works.
For sure.
Not much difference in the way people what people want and the way people live their lives, though.
Yeah. So I wanted to get you on because you've been everywhere, and I don't know what the hell's going on. I saw you in the UK, so that's why I was wondering. And one of the videos that I saw was you getting harassed by the cops, man. What the hell was that about? And as an American, if you don't know anything about UK laws like malicious communications or how sensitive and they like to portray themselves as very open-minded and liberal and free speech, but it's nothing like that, man. It's just a facade when you really look at it. And so when I saw that the cops was harassing you, it didn't surprise me because I already have a better understanding than most of my fellow Americans have in regards to the UK. So walk me through that, man. What was that all about?
Well, I do. Probably about 5 years ago, I got into watching, and maybe from America, actually, it might have been First Amendment audits that I started watching, like auditing. So they'd go out and check for the police keeping the First Amendment in order, and they'd film the police and see what the reaction was, and see if you have a right to free press and a right to gather in public and hold people to account. All of these different things, that's what it's about. The police and authorities have such a massive power when it comes to surveilling us. Yet what we find is that when stuff kicks off, their footage goes missing very quickly. Their ranks close. In Cardiff very recently, last week, I think it was, 2 kids died. They were being chased by police officers. They were on a motorbike. They were naughty kids. They're from where my dad was brought up. It's like the naughtiest area of Cardiff, like super naughty. My granddad was a landlord of the roughest pub in that area. It's like you had to steal the furniture back every night. It was salt of the earth. Fantastic South Walian people. They'd still smile and laugh even when they're giving the furniture back to you when you've gone round the house. Like, I mean, they're that type of people. And they're really naughty boys down there. I mean, anyone who hangs around in Ely knows you get into loads of trouble, and you could get in a fight or two if you're from the wrong area. It's one of those areas. Just like in America, you have, Crips and Bloods. You have the same over here with different areas and communities. They can't help it. And these two kids were being chased by these police, and the two kids crashed. They were about 14, 15, and they crashed and died, both of them. And there were riots that broke out over Ely. It's not the first time there's riots in Ely. Ely has had it before. One was over the price of bread in the 80s, I think it was. There was one shop that was selling bread for 5p, and then a shop next door that was selling bread for 6p. And one guy bought the one for 6p, then went in the next shop to buy something else, discovered the other bread was 5p, went back in the other shop and said, I want a refund. And the guy went, no. And then the riots started in Ely. And riots, when they start in Ely, they start all across the country. It's just weird. It's how it happens. It's like it's a bellwether. If something kicks off in Ely, it's going to kick off all around Britain. So I think the Ely riots that have come this time isn't just about the kids, which is a lot about it, because it turns out the police denied that they were pursuing the kids. And then two different points of footage come out. One where there's like the police are quite distant away, and another one where they're quite close up and they go past someone's house really quick. So they were obviously pursuing them, and they lied to the community, and that caused the riots. And of course, then everybody gets their cameras out. But we would not know that the police were pursuing those kids unless people had cameras on their doorstep, if people had mobile phones and were able to take picture of the event that was happening. And that's what in America, one of the reasons why First Amendment auditing happening here, and over here we just call it like police auditing. It's like I think it's called the PNAC movement, which is photography is not a crime movement. And it's about being able to say the rules are anywhere from public that you could see is fair game for photography. So if someone has got their windows wide open and they're running around in the nude and they're bobbling their boobies all around the place, as we say over here, and there's a crowd of kids outside all filming, the person breaking the law is probably the woman who's going around showing off her boobies, because she knows that from public people are going to be able to see inside her private property. So there's of course harassment laws and other laws that stop people from taking advantage of like harassing people by using cameras, like standing outside their house and just taking. It's harassment laws. If you do that a few times, then eventually you're going to get an order, and eventually you're going to go and pay a fine, and then eventually you're going to go to prison and all of that stuff, or maybe. So there's like certain things that are there that mean that we've got to keep an eye on the police. And the police, it turns out, are hilariously comical, because as soon as you put a camera on them, they get completely and utterly crazy about the fact that you got a camera on them, and they want to know who you are, and all of their training kicks in, and you can talk to them, and they often can't hear what you're doing. So I've been just before I went to Chile for the first time in December 2020, me and my brother from another mother monkey were like, we're gonna have to go out and do auditing. We were preparing for it. We were learning, going through all of the laws. We were planning on just like flooding, go up and down the country, and like journalism took over, COVID took over, my life took over. I've been moving backwards and forwards, and in between there, we've managed to start up doing this auditing. And I see it as more like street journalism that'll always end up involving the cops somewhere along the lines. Like you go through a city center, like I now walk, like have a little stroll through the city center and watch everything happen. And I talk to a lot of the homeless people selling stuff on the street, people who want to talk to you, and some of them are really nice and some of them are a little bit crazy. Some of them will sing a song for you, but most of all, it's really friendly. There's lots of Cardiff characters. Cardiff's a really super friendly place. Every time people come to Britain, like if they come to Wales, they go, "Oh my God, Wales is so friendly," and it is. It's just everybody wants to be your friend, and they're not. But the majority are not trying to steal from you. They're trying to make you their friend so that they can have a buddy to hang around with, drink, to be merry with. That's the best places in the world are like that, and it's a very kind place. So walking around somewhere like Cardiff or in different places in South Wales, you always meet characters, always fun. You always get the police, and I've had loads of different encounters now with the police, and we've had ones where they push us, we've had ones where they try and incite us to fight. I had one where a guy was dying on the floor in the city center, and like I watched the police officer give the worst first aid around, do everything wrong, and like I was telling him, but because of ego and all those other things, they all saw me as the enemy, and so kept doing the wrong things on camera. It's like bizarre. It's how people's psychology work once they're in a state of ego, and if you capture that on camera, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch and behold. That's what most of the internet is now full of, is ego filled clips, people going reacting from and not wanting to be wrong. And on that occasion, they had to call in 12 to 13 cops. Now, this is the first, that was to deal with me, 12 to 13 cops to cordon off the area and cajole me in loads of different ways, because me saying that you should give that guy first aid was causing a scene. We are going to go so far out of our way not to give that guy first aid, proper first aid, now that you've told me. At one point, they've laid him back with his head between two benches, and he's like, he's at that angle with his head back, and they can't put him in the recovery position because his head's between two metal bars. And it's like, I did first aid every 3 months. At one point, the cop in that one actually says, "Oh, do you want to get off the camera and do something?" And I was like, at that point, it's really hard to know what to do, because I could do a better job and all of that. But you're supposed to be holding people to account, and you're supposed to be showing what they're doing, and they're supposed to be able to do it. It seems just completely bizarre when you get behind it that someone's ego will only be fulfilled or put to the side if someone else says, "Okay, well, get out of my way and let me take over." After a while, they didn't, and soon the guy was having CPR, and then he was having defibrillators. One defib wasn't working, never. They brought in 12, 13 cops to surround me, and the duty sergeant, the person who's like the person on in charge of all the cops that they brought, started grabbing my arm and pushing me. Then he started using my name. They didn't know my name. They had brought out the facial recognition cameras. They had parked up two cameras on either side, two vans on either side with facial recognition. And that's just to get my name. It's not to get anybody else's name, because there's no other argument going on. I'm saying, no, I caught it all on camera, what you did, and you could be listening, and they're grabbing me and pushing me, and they're trying to get me angry so that I'll like push them back, or I'll act out of. And I think there's an issue for them, and that happened this time. On this occasion, that happened the other day. I think this issue comes up. I think I've entered in like freedom of information requests about Epstein case in Britain to multiple forces. I'm obviously on their radar in many ways. I got a file as long as my arm, which isn't criminal. So it's all reports I've made. It's all me complaining about police behavior, getting them to do something about something that they don't want to do, and lots of other things. And this file, whenever they read it, they before I was doing the auditing, before I was doing journalism, they already didn't like to deal with me, because they'd read it and be like, "Oh shit, man, this guy's gonna have me filling out loads of paperwork, and I don't want to do anything about it."
Paperwork.
Yeah, paperwork, motherfucker. That's what the most of police job is. Go on, what were you gonna say?
No, it's interesting how, and I've got my views on police, and I've got family that are police officers. I used to be a firefighter back in the day, and I worked with a lot of police officers. There's a lot of good folks out there, so that's to preface what I'm about to say. My biggest issue with stuff like police brutality, and the reason they come up, is the lack of accountability, man. You get a lot of these people, they need to increase their standards for hiring, because a lot of times they hire these people that have anger issues to begin with, and then you give them a little gun, a little badge, and now they feel like they can run shit. And instead of de-escalating situations, they only serve to escalate them. They try to fire you up, so now they have an excuse to beat the shit out of you or rough you up. You see this time and again, man. I had one situation, I've talked about it before, but I got pulled over. So I was going to my brother's house, and this was when I was younger. I had my shaved head, looking all thugged out, but I was a real estate agent. So I was making good money. I was driving a brand new car at the time. I guess that's a rare sight to see a successful young...
You can shave your head if you want. Don't let them stop you shaving your head and being
life. That's the thing. I was being racial profiled. I had this son of a bitch cop. He saw me pulling in my brother's house. On the way over there, they were doing construction, and in the state where I was living in Utah, the school zones are 20 miles per hour. All right, 20 miles per hour. This cop locked eyes with me and just started fucking following me on my ass. So there was no speed limit sign where I came in onto that major street. So I assumed, okay, they're doing construction, I'll go 20 miles an hour. A school speed limit zone, all right? Well, lo and behold, apparently that area had 50 miles an hour. So now he had every reason to pull me over in his mind, but I didn't have a damn speed thing. So he pulls his lights on. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I pull over to the side. He comes up to me with his gun pointed to my fucking head. I'm 23 years old. I'm like, what the fuck? Man. I've never had a gun pulled on me in my life. I don't know what's going on. I thought I was doing everything correctly, but apparently not. So I go, officer, what have I done? What have you pulled me over? He goes, shut the fuck up. I ask the questions. And I'm a young kid. I've never had any of these interactions. I don't know what the hell's going on. So because I've got a gun in my head, my first emotion, I'm scared as shit. I'm not gonna lie, I was like, what the fuck, man? I don't know what's going on. And as it progressed, and this guy was like 5'0" bro, 5'0", just a little bitch ass dude that obviously got his badge and gun just to push people around. So I'm scared. I got a gun to my head, and he won't tell me what I've been pulled over. He calls backup. He starts walking around my whole car, under it, looking under it and everything. And then it clicked. This son of a bitch thinks I'm a drug dealer. I'm trafficking drugs. So now my fear turned into, I'm starting to get angry now. And I go, why have I been pulled over? You were going 20 over 15. I go, that's why you came up with me with a gun to my head? And now I'm getting angry. I'm starting to get a little crazy. He writes me my damn ticket. I grabbed one of my real estate cars and I fucking threw it at his ass, and then I just peeled off. I go, I sell houses for a living, you son of a bitch. And I just pulled off. I fought the ticket. I went to traffic court and everything. It's a long story, but it's interesting because when I fought the ticket at traffic court, the judge gave me the opportunity to go along with the hearing, and if he found me guilty again, he was going to double up my fine. So I said I'm 100% innocent, blah blah blah. The judge says you are. He goes, unfortunately, this officer has a history of racial profiling. So this wasn't the first time this son of a bitch had done it. The judge overturned the case. But when I tried to file a complaint on this son of a bitch, I got runaround after runaround after runaround. It was almost impossible to do any kind of complaint. I finally got a hold of his captain. His captain says, I've got a golf trip with this guy during the weekend. I'll talk to him about it. And that was as high of a...
reprimanded on the fourth hole.
But you see what I'm saying? That happened to me. That was back in 2005. So, we're talking almost 20 years ago that this happened. And I remember seeing all these police brutality videos coming out. I'm like, this is exactly what happens. They never you can't hold them accountable, man. They've got uncrazy power to end life with a fucking pull of a trigger. And the accountability issues are huge, man. And it doesn't matter if it's here or in the UK. It's ridiculous. And we see with all these lockdowns going on and whatever, and as things get crazier, who are going to be the first ones to start enforcing these tyrannical rules? It's going to be these guys. They're going to be the front line, and then obviously the military is going to get involved. But yeah, my views on cops, man. I'm sorry about that rant, but that's what I'm known for.
My point. One of the things I take from that, which is really important, is this moment, yeah, where you're sitting in that car, and you said that you turned to anger because you realized he was profiling you. Before, as far as you knew, you were guilty of something. You didn't know what it was. It was this obscure idea of guilt and authority and the fear of dying because you've done something that you shouldn't have done, and it's my fault. And all of those things come with panic. Regret comes with panic. It's hard to think logically and to start thinking outside the box and to think about dynamics and paradigms and wider influence and who the other person even is when you're under pressure and they're getting angry. But as soon as a moment that you work out something, and that moment gives you confidence, and then everything changes really quickly. And from that point, he's on the back foot all the way to being reprimanded. He'd be reprimanded in the 19th hole, you know, in the bar afterwards. You know, so some foreigner who lives in our country called me and said that you were a bastard, and I said, yes, he is, and now we can drink together. Chin chin, well done, good work.
Russ, your punishment will be to carry my bag back to our car. That is your punishment.
Yeah. And make sure you keep on with that good work. That's what really is there, because he's not going to be. I mean, the fact is that they will have this. The thing that frustrates us the most is that these people in positions of authority or power have like disrespect for us, and we cannot gain that respect. And often that we respond in frustration of being like, "But shouldn't you do this and shouldn't you do that and shouldn't you be accountable?" And they just don't care. But there's a moment there, that moment where he's made you feel like. I mean, it happens when you're young. It happened to me loads of time when I was young with the police. They say something and you're like, I feel guilty. It's my fault. And the moment you get confidence is the moment the situation changed. So auditing gives me the ability to cut through all of that beginning. I've gone through that beginning over and over again. I've been had loads of different interactions with the police. A lot of the time in hotels, a lot of the time with violent men who were usually targeting either me, my staff, or women who they were in rooms with, etc. And other things that were going on. I've had some 20 years in a night, working nights mainly in hotels, sometimes big 5-star hotels, usually as night manager. So I was always the one who was like right up front with a chaotic situation. I'd walked into rooms with just blood everywhere and like women with blood on the floor, men with knives in their hands. I walked down corridors with men, with a load of Irish men with knives in their hand, all out the door saying, come this way, come this way, come this way. And once people get enough drinking, any authority figures will get anyway. And the person who's trying to stop you from doing whatever you want to do, even if it's illegal, that includes being drunk and trying to bash down some girl's door or trying to force some girl to do something or the like, which is what you get if you put 300 to 500 people in a city centre hotel full of drinks on a Friday or Saturday night and then send them all back home. You need someone like me to deal with the aftermath and rip it all up. And I learned that something from arguing with cops over years and years, because they try and stop from doing anything. They'd come and some situation was really bad, and you knew that the more they left it, the worse it'd get. But it'd get for me and for the person who would be targeted, and yet they'd always try and not do anything as much as possible when everything's obvious. So I got used to them, and I learned that bit where they've got you and they make you think that you're guilty of something without even having to say anything, just their first interaction. That's the most important part. And it's the most important part of auditing as well. You just go, Be polite, go straight up to the police, get in their face and start talking to them. Make them have to answer questions. Make them have to, and if they ignore you, which say probably about 40% of police will completely try and ignore you up until the point where the you could stop that by there's certain methods like asking them to identify. So they usually have to identify in Britain. They have to identify 3 different forms. They could either show their warrant card, use their name, their number, and their station as well, and their uniform acts as one form of identification as well. So if they're non-uniform, they have to identify in 3 other ways. There's loads of things like that that they have to do, which means that if they ignore you when you interact with a police officer, you just say, okay, identify, and they go, oh, and it's like you already changed their mindset. They have to go, no, and this guy knows a little bit of something, and then they have to say, or they have to let their ego take over, and then you've got someone who's got a massive ego. And with a lot of auditing, it's the police bother you about something, and then you've got an interaction with them. And what happened the other day was a little bit unexpected, because I was going there to meet with some guys for the first time. They're Voice of Wales, and Voice of Wales are seen in the police's eyes as some form of like far right movement, and it's just a load of very nice people. Most of them don't seem far right. There was no sign of any. I mean, it was just old people who were like, it was a protest against 15-minute fucking cities. I mean, it wasn't like a violent protest of get immigrants out of the country or anything like that. This protest was about 15-minute city. But Voice of Wales also go to like the ones where they say don't bring in so much migration, don't do this, don't do that. So they've got a name for themselves, and they have associations because of that. Some people who've turned up in the past have probably been a bit riotous. But the other side is like this transgender left-wing off their brain sort of protesters, out of their brains protesters on the other side that are probably about a quarter of the size, and scream and shout and say stuff like, oh, the guy it was amazing. I listened to his speech, and he was saying, we don't care about George Soros. You can say everything you like about George Soros, but we don't need to look at the evidence. We know that you're worse than George Soros. And that was like, that's their mentality. And I felt like it was summed up in that. We don't care about these elites telling us what to do, and we will do everything they want us to do, whether or not we should or not, because we want to hate you because you're in front of us right now. And it's like that sort of like, I need someone to argue with. And he was a petulant little guy. He actually gets caught on the beginning of the film.
His name wasn't Uncle Terrence, was it?
No, but I might call him Uncle Terrence from now on. I might call him Uncle Terrence. I went past. I was at the end of the protest, so there's loads of reasons why you can say that I was potentially picked out. There's probably about 3 or 4 main reasons why I was picked out and stopped going on the protest. So this protest was 100 plus people, not more than 100. I'd like to say it was 200, but it wasn't. It was about 100 probably. And they have to walk through this group of counter protesters who are like basically a bunch of people who won't look in your eye and go, down with you racist Nazis. And it's like, oh my God, just stop. Just stop. It's just not Nazis. These people aren't Nazis. It's just, this is ridiculous. I mean, you Nazis are really proud to be Nazis as well. That's one of the things about being a national socialist, is that you're extremely proud about your nationalist socialist roots and all of this. Having an ideology like that is really balls out. So
isn't it funny
it's
though?
So silly.
It's funny when I see these people that are calling everyone Nazis. That's hate speech. You're using most vile of hate speech. and they call everyone Nazis and all this nonsense. And
hey, you got a sexy voice there, kitten. Go on, sorry.
No, you good, bro. This is what it's all about. Hey, look at this. Look at this, Johnny V.
What have you got? Oh, IPA, some Imperial IPA. That looks like
9.2% flower power juice. You know what I'm saying?
You're a madman. You're a madman. I just realized I've left mine elsewhere.
You're good, bro. But no, what? So it's just funny. These people that are the loudest calling everyone Nazis and hateful and bigots and blah blah blah, and let's shut down free speech, because in their mind somehow free speech doesn't mean you can criticize. Where the hell did they get this definition? That's what free speech is. You're allowed to criticize and say whatever the hell you want, as offensive as it may be. But they seem to forget that point. And yet they criticize everyone and accuse everyone of being Nazis, and yet they're doing Nazi-esque behaviors.
Well, they're using their
That's
free
what the
speech
Nazis
to
used
call
to do,
people
bro.
Nazis. They're using their free speech to call people Nazis and fair dues.
But they're shutting down free speech. One of the first things the Nazis did when they got in power was to shut down free speech.
Yeah,
and they're doing exactly the same thing. It's so hilarious to see. But when, you know, when we were just talking about the protests, it's kind of funny how some protests are allowed to flourish. You know, hey, if you try to disrupt this protest, we're going to put you under cuffs. You're going to get arrested. And then other protests are shut down by the government. And even the news won't cover it. It's funny how certain things are allowed to be spoken about and certain things are allowed to be protested against. It's a funny dynamic that's going on, and I'm sure it's intentional. What are your thoughts on that, Johnny?
Yeah, well, that was very emblematic of what I saw the other day when I went to this protest. Because really, my question was, and what I was saying to you earlier is, the police are responding to a 15-minute city protest, and the counter protests are responding to a 15-minute city, an anti-15-minute city protest, as though it's Nazis. You know, as though this is potential rioters. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you use that and place it, that sort of method of doing things, and place it on top of whatever? And it's because it causes that the ones who want change and are willing to be peaceful need to be made, and the systems within the police, the way the police are trained, the riot teams are trained, the police are trained, they need to be antagonized into doing something. And for that you need restriction, restrictive, then explosion. And so most of what would you say, like what by exactly what you were saying, we're not protesting what we really need to protest, because we've been gerrymandered, we've been forced to protest different things, because the real things we have to protest aren't allowed to be spoken about. And when we try and do it, and they'll paint us as conspiracy theorists or all of these sort of things, lunatics, and it keeps us in this circle. And if we're keeping this circle, we'll work it out. We're going to keep in the circle. The cycle will go round and we'll be continuing being conspiracy. So we've got to break that cycle in some way. So what I saw when I went down on the ground was a situation where the cops have protest liaison officers who have a certain job to put certain pressure on. Then you have an external visual pressure of loads of police around. You have an auxiliary force that is brought in from outside the city and doesn't care about the people of the community. He's already in like a foreign city, and that comes out in the way they act, especially when the city had local rivalries. I mean, if you're from Swansea and you come down to Cardiff to police, and the people are Cardiff people. Why wouldn't you want to be with
bloody pig nose?
Yeah, we hate each other because of football. But they just they put like a line of police all around the top of the stairs where the march was going to start. I had talked to loads of police. They had made the situation so that it feels like really uncomfortable all of the time, yet there's no actual lines. It's just a small group of counter protesters over there, a small group over here, and some in the middle trying to have a conversation with being either stopped by two things, sort of like the police, or stopped by the stupidity of the other side, the inability for them to understand basic things and to explain what they mean. Because you find that the counter protesters this argument, I heard some of this, there's a guy called Out and About with Dave, who's another auditor who goes around. He caught some of the footage of this protest, and it's just insane to listen to them speak. They can't even get like a few words out. So I had a little argument with these people at the top one just before the police stopped me. In actual fact, I had conversation with liaisons officers, an auxiliary team, the people, the police who were on the ground, some of another unit of police that were just over on the side. I went round with a camera and I talked to each of these groups of police that I found, because that's part of police auditing, is you're not hiding from the police. You're going up to the police and saying, hello, I'm a police auditor and I'm auditing you. That's my style. I just go straight in and say, I'm a police auditor. What do you think about this over here? Or what do you think about this over here? Well, you know, you get interesting reactions from the cops and you can get to gauge which cops. So it wasn't like I was hiding from the cops or anything. So this didn't make any sense why the cops would want to stop me at this point. But I walked down the steps at the tail end of the protest. I have a little argument with some of these counter protesters. And on the footage, you'll be able to see a line of coppers, policemen, running down the side of this ramp where I'm walking down the steps and they're running down the side of the ramp towards the subway, and they're all for me. It makes no sense when I watch it back and it's like a crowd of people entering under a subway. And I'm going, I've talked to a load of different coppers. Some of these coppers I've spoken with, and they know who, they must know something of what I'm trying to do, that I'm just talking to them and I'm being polite. I don't have rude conversations. If you watch the full video, you'll see that with one copper, we have a really nice long conversation. It's really pleasant. The guy's really seemed interesting. He agreed with the cops who shot the dogs in London. I didn't agree with that. But it was nice to have a conversation. He was pretty open. That is what it's about. It's about having dialogue with the police. Policing by consent is what's supposed to be going on. And to gain consent, you have to talk to someone. You can't gain consent from someone unless you've introduced yourself first, you could say. And so having a conversation with the police on this. So walking down there, and it's really, really bizarre to watch it back, because trying to understand why I would be the one. And I think it was about like 3 or 4 different things that they couldn't work out about me. Which side I was on was one of them. So, though, out and about with
interesting
Dave's,
in itself that they have to see what side you're on. Like, you can't apply the damn law equally.
There's only allowed to be a Hegelian dialectic. They're policing not only by consent, but by Hegelian dialectic. There has to be the one side and the antithesis. There has to be, and one of the sides is created, manufactured, because it doesn't make any sense, and the other is a natural occurrence. That's how nearly every protest seems to work. There's a focused and inorganic movement, and then there's an organic movement, and that is very present. And the police always go to protect the inorganic movement. That's something, and it's always the smaller movement who are the most angry, and they placate to them. They allow them lots of leeway. But these coppers, these ones who run down, were just opposite. Like some of the ones who ran down, when I'm talking to one of them, they're watching me having an argument with the counter protesters and saying, "No, you're really rude. You're not very nice at all. No, thank you very much." I was a bit silly with them. Like, "Thank you, officers, for protecting me." Like, stroll down the stairs in the auditing mood in my brain, like a middle-aged man I am. And I walked down the stairs, and I could see these coppers running down the side, but I didn't think it was for me. That's silly. Why would it be for me? There's loads of people here, and everybody's so calm and quiet. I'm talking away. I'm not shouting or screaming. I'm talking away at this point. I like looking around, and I kind of like, because I'm used to doing the auditing now. You can hear the sirens in the background. They're coming to get me, They're coming to take me away. No, I don't know. Not this time. Yeah. So I turned to video them as I walked past them because I always video police. That's the point of it. Very slowly watch them. And what I was watching was them forming a group ready to stop just me and get in front of me and form a line in front of me and stop me from going on the protest. Only me. And the rules were when because when the first guy ran out in front of me, he goes, "No, mate, can't go this way." I was just like, "What?" You know, I'm filming a protest. I come along to film the protest, but I don't think they could work out who I was, which side I was on. That scared them. I don't act like the rest of them do. I had gone up and talked with multiple police. That's not, you know, that's too many questions. At that point, they have to get out the facial recognition. I think that's the way it goes. That's the way it works now. And for the facial recognition to happen, they need to stop you and go through the process of capturing your face over and over again on their devices, cameras, whatever. So as I entered into the subway, they formed this line in front of me. They let everybody else go. Everybody else for the rest of the time. There's one guy on the video who like goes up and asks him a question. Someone says, "Oh, you can go up and up around there," but everybody else is allowed to go under the subway. The rules for me was I was allowed to go up and go all the way around the ramp and all the way over the road on the other side to the other side of the subway. I wasn't allowed to walk through the subway. Now, is unusual punishments, unusual punishments that make no sense, that are only fit for one person.
No.
And you're not allowed to go under this tunnel. You can go round and over this tunnel. Everybody else can go through this tunnel. You're not allowed to go through this tunnel. And of course, I'm an auditor, so I'm not going to stop there. And I then went through a process of trying to make them understand what they were doing here. And yet they were still letting people through, and it still kept happening. And at one point, one of the guys says, like, there's two things that are really interesting. One, I've gone up to it says that the only reason there's a problem is that I have come up to the police line. But they placed the line in front of me. So to understand that, it's like the line only exists because of me. And so you can put a line in front of everybody, and then it's that person's fault for coming up to the line. It's like punching someone and saying it's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault.
Made me hit you
because you're walking into my fist because of gravity or whatnot. I don't know. I just want to punch you. Yeah. The fact is, they wanted to stop me, and they wanted to stop me for long enough. And that makes me think facial recognition was what they were trying to achieve at the end of it. And I'm like, loads of people will say, "Oh, you should put a mask on," and stuff like this. Number one, I'm not fucking Antifa. I'm not a little coward bitch. I'm not going to sit there with a mask on, like going, "Oh, I'm so hard." I'm going to use my name in my journalism. I'm going to use my name around town. I'm going to show my face, and I'm going to allow to be exactly who I am and exactly what I look like, whether the technology is there or not. And then I'm going to learn how I navigate that within this new world. And so I'm not going to cover my face at this point, but I know that this is, first of all, I'm an auditor. I know this is good for camera anyway. This is the police showing their true face. They're letting everybody else go by. I'm the only one who's not allowed to go by. The other one says that it's just my perspective. It's just me not being able to go past when everybody else is going past. It's just my perspective. But I was watching everybody go past, and I'm not allowed to go past, and like, it's reality. And these guys can, they bend reality. And so once they bend reality, you're not supposed to do what they say. They're supposed to do what you say at that point, because it's like, no, you've gone now too far. So eventually I think they get a match, and I think I heard my name over as the guy in like at the end of the thing. The guy turns around, and these two girls coming close so I can't get through the middle, just in case I try and dart down the subway. Where there's no one on the other side of the subway. I've been stuck there for like 5 minutes plus now. So all of the protest is well up the street. I got fucking arthritis in one of my toes. Yeah, so it's not like I'm going to be running up there anytime soon anyway. I'm getting old now. I'm not really... I'm going to escape all of these police. It's roughly within the vicinity of where I am. There's 30-odd police and 10 of them, so more than that. And there's 10 of them who are surrounding right next to me. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do? But they come in like they're trained stormtroopers.
Hands up!
And yeah, the
Lift
guy
up your
walks
sack
the
and
other
put your
way.
hands up, sir.
Oh, yeah. Okay. My little sweetie. You were lovely. After this podcast, me and you, Wheezy, you're going to have to talk sweetly into my ear, all right, just for a little bit. I'll record it and put it in the bank. Anyway, so the guy walks around and he gets on his radio and he's listening, and the other guy next to me who's I think one guy's a duty sergeant of the small unit that come down, and the other one's a protest management auxiliary team, duty sergeant style person, and they coordinate between each other, and they both got the call at the same time and both walked away at the same time and got my name through at the same time. And then one of the women, I looked in her eyes and she looked like this, like really shocked all of a sudden, and then they let me through really quickly. Okay, you go through now, you go through. And I think they got my name back, and I think I've got a tag on my file saying "Do not detain," because I think in people like me, they know that they need the ability to detain me later when they want to shut my voice up. And I'm going to write an article that they seriously goes a little too far, or find information that goes a little too far, and then they're going to want to have the right not to have detained me before illegally, and that means that auditing becomes an extremely interesting practice. Yeah, because that means that officially, and facial recognition becomes a very interesting thing, because if there's a note on my phone, I'm guessing by their reactions and by what I've had on a couple of occasions before, I think there's notes that's stay away. Don't detain for no reason. You have to have a good reason to detain, and I think that means that I can probably push the boundaries with auditing more than most of the auditors can, and that comes from the fact that I report on the CIA, MI5, MI6, whatever. They all know. When I filled in a Freedom of Information request at the I can't remember if it was the beginning of the end of last year. I think it was the end of last year. I was trying to I asked for the guards, the police who were supplied in Foxcoat House on 1st of September 2002 to guard Nicole Younkerman and her meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, who the two US senators were that attended that event, which was a very small affair with masses of security and just a few people at it, including two women who arrived, one on each of Epstein's arms, one being Nicole Younkerman, who's now Countess Peretti, and invested within Skylink now. Elon Musk bought her company, one of her companies, off her recently, so now she's up inside the Musk, I believe. I'll say it like that. She's the biggest censor of me ever. Sorry about this, but yeah, don't expect this video to stay up on YouTube for long.
No, you know what? Let's go there. So, for those that don't know, now you know, Mr. Johnny Vedmore, when it comes to all things Epstein, he is a savant, an encyclopedia. You've written many articles. You now have a few podcasts. You have your News Pace podcast. That's the newest one, right? And then you have one of my favorite ones, the News House, where you cover some of the older articles. and give your interesting perspective. But this is one of the reasons why I reached out to you. Obviously, I wanted to know what the hell you were doing up in Cardiff and getting bullied around. But now that I know you're a freaking auditor, that makes you even more of a kick-ass in my book. But I also wanted to ask you a little bit of Epstein stuff. I know you're working on a huge project on Epstein, so we're not going to be able to take a deep dive. We're just going to be able to give everyone a teaser so you can follow my man Johnny Vedmore. On the thumbnail I have his website, on the description you have his website where you can get all his work. But let's get into Epstein. What is the latest on Epstein? We heard the JP Morgan chase things come up. We heard Noam Chomsky, who had been venerated and respected by a lot of quote unquote truth tellers for the longest of times, getting caught up with Epstein. So there's quite a bit of Epstein stuff that's gone on. If you can give us a little teaser, that would be exquisite, my man.
Yes, I can. I think something that's going on at the moment is like miniature resets. So all of these guys knew they were on Epstein's plane, yeah? So if you're ethically and morally superior, if you're on top of it, if you're a good person, what does that mean? You were on Epstein's plane. Epstein gets caught being very naughty back in 2005. He starts the investigation 2006. By 2009, 2010, 2011, it's all over newspapers. You should at that point come out and say, hey, I had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and I'm very sorry. Loads of those people actually had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein after that point. And so what happens when Jeffrey Epstein gets arrested properly by the police eventually, and it goes to prison, and within a couple of months,
a slap on the wrist sentence.
Yeah. But the later one, even all of the people should have turned around and said, "Oh yeah, I knew Jeffrey Epstein, yeah." Blah. But Noam Chomsky knows. No, let's see how long we can hide in the shadows for. They show their true face, and now these guys. Oh, I think Noam Chomsky is one of the most pernicious because it's like manufacturing consent. That's it. That's what he does. It's really, really bizarre, and he does it by saying it, by telling you what he's doing at the same time in such a level that it allows him. Seymour Hersh allows you to, is allowed to do the same sort of thing. These legacy media people of the past, and they brought up a lot of the new media as well. A lot of people who are in the independent media and stuff, they have links to some of these people, so it was very important to protect them. People might know that, for instance, this could cause trouble. Aaron Maté from the Grey Zone. I mean, what's the first thing that he ever appeared on? Oh, was it that documentary that was about the protests in the Canadian university? Yes, it was. And who's the first person that's in the first scene ever with Aaron Maté when he first gets put out with Noam Chomsky? And these people seed people out there. They seed people who always take the wrong side at first and then change their mind after and become the hero and tell you how all of the trick is done once they've pulled the trick on other people. This is how I see them. They're the fake heroes that get given to us over and over again. So I think these are all miniature resets. What they're doing is saying, look, we're revealing Noam Chomsky was hanging around with Epstein. Now that's gone. Next, we're revealing that this person. Next,
Bill Gates 39 times. Donald Trump 7 times on the plane. Bill Clinton over 28 times on the plane. And you know what's funny? Whenever you hear someone make apologist remarks defending whether it's Trump, Clinton, Bill Gates, or all these other characters, they always say the same. Well, he didn't know. It's always the same shit, man. And what's the excuse that these people that get busted on multiple occasions hanging out with Bill or Epstein? They always say that, oh, it was for philanthropic reasons. That's the only reason I was hanging out with him. Bull fucking shit, man. We have several people saying that they knew exactly what Epstein was about. So they can't use that excuse. If it was one time, you may get the benefit of the doubt. But when it's multiple times, get the hell out of here. You knew what he was doing.
one of his balls was dipping in the philanthropic bucket, and one of his balls was dipping in the mouth of each of these elites who say it was
Teabags.
philanthropic. So they're kind of like, it was a double tea bag. So they are kind of connected, but not completely. And you can't blame the entity over there just because you're in bed with the same person.
Yeah.
That's not possible. And this will come up. I'm about to release the 5th. I'm not sure if it'll be the end, because I'm fuck. That's what I'll say. I'm about to release the 5th of the Epstein 101 series, and this was to really give examples to people of how the influence operation works and to set up the series that is coming up next. And there was a reason why I needed to set this up properly, was partly I had written a lot of this. I mean, not all of it was put in there, but I had written a lot of this for Whitney Webb's One Nation Under Blackmail Volume 2. There was the parts I was to investigate certain parts, and so I've adapted this Epstein 101 from a lot of the research I did from that period, and including stuff that didn't end up going in the book because it was not relevant to the intelligence operations per se, but could really describe the unit and how it worked. And the series that are coming out soon that I will be bringing out will be on newspace.com soon. That series could cause, like, if it's used in the way I think it could be used really easily, it could cause the downfall of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial.
God damn.
It could fall apart completely. I mean, it would be tragic. And so one of the things that leads to is a extremely big problem for me, an extremely big problem, where basically people will think I'm on Ghislaine Maxwell's side. And I've written loads of stuff showing exactly who Ghislaine Maxwell is. And I realized that, well, I've got to write the Epstein 101 series, not only to describe the operation, but to describe who Epstein was and who Ghislaine Maxwell was, because they were two very significant but slightly different characters. And when you see them, you see that they shared one thing in common for sure. They were both narcissistic, sadistic, preferential pedophiles. Both of them. The FBI would categorize them as probably sadistic, preferential pedophiles. They didn't necessarily, I don't think there's any evidence that they necessarily tortured people, so I don't mean that in this term sadistic, but they like to see people in awkward, uncomfortable positions, girls in awkward, uncomfortable positions, and that turned them on more. That gave Ghislaine Maxwell a big sense of power, and it's why she enjoyed grooming young girls so much, luring young girls so much, bringing them to Epstein, and being the trap in front of the door to stop them leaving the room once Epstein takes all of his clothes off. So there was like a routine to it. She was very significant to that, and she was a preferential pedophile. There's no doubt. There's no doubt if you look at the evidence that she preferred girls of a young age, and Epstein was definitely that. No doubt at all. He was a preferential pedophile. Like there's an element of whether he was like, you know, whether he thought he was sadistic. Not whether I think everything they do is sadistic, narcissistic, all of these different things, but whether he thought he was, because a lot of these preferential pedophiles don't understand. They see themselves as doing a benefit to the person they're abusing. And Epstein was very much that. And Maxwell was very much that. They saw themselves as being a benefit. Their abuse was helping these girls out. They were allowed to abuse them. They got money, privilege. They got to go on courses or whatever. Well, for the majority of the girls, that wasn't the case at all. But for the majority, now let me set up what's coming. Let me set up what's coming. If you look at the Epstein case and you look at the girls, not the intelligence stuff, if you look at the girls, Epstein was having roughly 2 to 3 girls every day coming over to his home, and they would be abused in some way. Yeah. They were trained, groomed, lured, seduced, whatever terms you want to use, to eventually regularly see Epstein. If you were to count up the amount of convictions, the amount of offenses that Jeffrey Epstein committed over a 10-year period in just, say, his Palm Beach residence alone, he moved in there in 1990. And he, if we take it all the way up, say, to when it stopped in 2004, when it stopped en masse in 2004, you'd have at least 8,000 different offenses, 8,000 different charges. That would put Jeffrey Epstein in prison for life. Put anybody in prison for life, consecutive. There's no doubt he'd be in chains straight away. What happened?
Nothing.
What happened? Jeffrey Epstein had a little court case, little slap on the wrist, investigation, court case, slap on the wrist, got back out. He basically had 15 years of freedom. Even when he was in prison the first time, he had an open door he could walk out of, and he would go and
But even before then, he had immunity, because if you go back in time with Stephen Hoffenberg, when he was involved in that $500 million Ponzi scheme, $500 million, I believe it was, he got a slap. He didn't get shit. Stephen Hoffenberg was the one that served hard time. You know what I'm saying? So he's been protected.
Stephen Hoffenberg stepped into hard time. He didn't even question anything. Did not argue it. Knew what he had to do in that situation. And that says something about who Epstein was.
Yeah.
Stephen Hoffenberg wasn't conned, ripped off, wasn't anything like that. Stephen Hoffenberg stepped into jail willingly. That's a weird
and the thing about Hoffenberg, and he passed away a couple years back, wasn't it? Or something like that.
About a year. I think it was last year he passed away.
Yeah.
I'll be able to say a lot about Hoffenberg eventually.
Okay.
I had
on him, man.
I had interactions with some of the family. It was a bit strange, and she knows who she is.
Yeah.
And someone who thought I was like, I mean, a lot of people think I'm completely nutty retarded.
No, bullshit. Not me, man.
I know, but they haven't read any of my work. they don't. Yeah, thank you. You're gonna make me redder than I already am, and I've been out in the sun way too much. No. There's a lot of people who think I'm, they don't check your work. They don't check what you do. They just assume that they're better than you because they have such a big ego and big sense of self. And they usually make really, really poor decisions, really bad decisions. And there's been a lot of that happening, and it's running up. It's going to be heated. There's going to be, what's coming is going to be really crazy. But let me, 8,000 plus offenses just in the area I'm talking about. No one gets out of that many. The amount of girls who were abused is loads of girls who were you never know their names. You never know anything about it. But when you look at their evidence, the evidence that they gave, it's repeated behavior over and over again. And what you notice when you see repeated behavior is the behavior that doesn't make any sense within it too. And there's a lot of that. And what I've discovered, what I'm going to do is run people up to the moment where Jeffrey Epstein realizes he's facing so much time. It's unbelievable. And what he decides to do in response, which is extraordinary. And I think I once I'm able to describe it to people, it should allow for lots of conversations that will lead to other places. And like everything, if you reveal, I got some big reveals. I mean, really big reveals coming. So if you reveal a load of stuff, that makes other stuff make sense to other people. I'm expecting this to be a House of Cards effect. There's going to be certain people who say, well, this doesn't make sense, or this doesn't. Wait a minute, that now makes sense. That now makes perfect sense. And now I can explain to other people what's happened. And I didn't expect to be. You try and look around for a story or something, but stories find you. If you're doing what I'm doing, the stories come to you. And this was so bizarre. My whole experience of how it led me to this. But I'm gonna be producing my next Epstein.
When's it come out?
Well, the last of this series, the Epstein 101 series, is going to come out on in the next couple of days, and it's going to include RFK stuff as well, which doesn't get discussed much on the independent media because people are very much like, "Oh, he's anti-vax. That must mean he must be our friend." And I'm always willing to examine these ideas.
That's going to be.
Because
I'm sorry, man. Just to interject real quick, my personal feeling. I've talked about this before. He could be a trap. He could be what Trump did to right-wingers and conservatives. But for the left side, he could say the right things at certain times, but you can't ignore some of the other shit. But what makes it perplexing is how his uncle and his dad were hit by the government. His dad, a lot of people know about the JFK assassination. And I've talked about this a little bit. I need to get an expert on this, but I followed the RFK assassination myself.
Have you had Corey Hughes on the show yet?
Dude, Corey's my buddy. He sends me nudes every day on Telegram.
Oh man, I bet he does. No, are they nudes of me? I bet you they're nudes of me.
It could be, and he could be saying that it's him. So now I have to reassess my. I'm just kidding. So Corey's probably listening right now. He'll pop in the live chat. Yeah. No, but yeah, Corey's gone balls deep. But when it comes to the RFK assassination, just a quick synopsis of it. There are questions. This isn't a conspiracy theory. When RFK's father was assassinated in the 60s, the official story said that he was assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan about 15 feet away in front of him in a crowded room. When RFK was killed, the Kennedy family, due to JFK assassination a few years prior, said, no, you guys aren't going to touch his body. We're going to do our own autopsy. Upon their own autopsy, the autopsy
they
found
discovered
that
he was a penguin.
That too. But it was through the autopsy that the official narrative completely and utterly crumbled, because during the autopsy, they found out that RFK Sr. was shot from the back at skin contact range, meaning Sirhan Sirhan could not have killed him, and it was all covered up. So when people only ever talk about the JFK because they don't know about the RFK, but that one, so you add that into the mix and it makes RFK Jr. an interesting character, because he'll say the right things at times, and then you look at some of his shady dealings and it's like, what do I make out of this? And it could be just something that a well poisoner, for lack of a better term. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it's that's really interesting. You use that terminology. That makes me giggle a little bit. What was it? What was his name? What was his name? I can't remember. I might have to check this. Basically, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. If you look at his Wikipedia page, I was saying to someone the other day, it's really funky. It's so weird.
Is it funky?
I don't like
status?
using Wikipedia. It's not funky monkey status. No. It's definitely funky though. I used to go in depth into like how the admin of Wikipedia to see how things are taken out and see what's taken out of Wikipedia pages. It can give you really good clues to where to look for stuff for the things that have been taken out of somewhere like Wikipedia. But so it's we know it's like really fundamentally a system that is run by the World Economic Forum's Jimmy Wales sort of aligned bunch of arseholes who are going to tell you a load of bullshit all of the time. So you can't trust what it's saying, but you can see how the establishment wants to portray somebody to you by looking at it. That's what you can see. You can see the representation. You can see the thing they want you to see. And RFK's page like starts off with he's a conspiracy theorist. he propagates medical conspiracy theories.
He's an anti-vaxxer.
Something along those lines. Yeah, right at the top, first thing. Then, and you'd think you'd go down and there'd be a list of loads of horrible things about him and how much of a horrible person he is. And basically, it goes on about how he was an environmental lawyer for nearly all of his life, working against people like Monsanto eventually, fighting hard for people who have had their land polluted. And he set up a certain safeguarding company that guarded waterways from being poisoned, and it had a name. Like, what were you just saying that I said is funny that you said about that? Because the well poisoning, because that's what basically one of the things that he was basically fighting against. His main aim was the poisoning of wells of water. So it's literally, in that sense, he was fighting against well poisoners. Literally,
there are no coincidences, Mr. Johnny Vedmore.
There are no coincidences.
That is wild.
He's a very now. What's really wild is that the Wikipedia page starts off saying basically it says he's a complete bastard, and then the rest of it goes on about how much of a great guy he is.
You know what's funny? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I mean, it's just mind blowing.
No,
I'm puffing out because the universe is crazy.
The universe is crazy, man. Have you ever heard of David McGowan?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
I am really terrible with names. I can't even remember.
No worries, man. No worries. David McGowan, I have been going down the rabbit hole of David McGowan. I've on my Odyssey channel, because Odyssey lets you do whatever the hell you want, so shout out to Odyssey. On my Odyssey channel, I uploaded David McGowan's breakdown of the Boston Marathon bombing, showing...
I might have seen this. Yeah.
And David McGowan...
it is impeccable if it is the one I watched.
It shows beyond any reasonable doubt that you can look at the Boston Marathon bombing like, yeah, I'm not going with the official narrative. That's all I'm going to say because I'm on YouTube. But David McGowan also debunks thoroughly with science, with reason and logic, not magical bullshit or religious innuendo. He doesn't use any of that. He uses science and logic to debunk NASA's moon landing. And on my Odyssey channel, I uploaded both of those videos. So go to my Odyssey channel, check them out. I encourage everyone to listen to them. But when you look at David McGowan's Wikipedia, I was expecting to see the worst smearing one has ever, because he was an investigative journalist. He wasn't someone that you could say was someone that lived in his basement at his mom's home just making shit up. He was a legitimate investigative journalist writing about some of the most taboo topics. Like, who the hell as an investigative journalist goes after NASA? Who does that? Who goes after Boston Marathon landing? Only someone that is indeed in search of the truth. And when you look at his Wikipedia, I was expecting the biggest freaking smear of all time in Wikipedia, and much to my chagrin, I was surprised that it was somewhat respectful. Because here's the interesting thing about it.
Wait a minute, did it say that Tsarnaev brothers landed on the moon?
It didn't say that. But I mean, it's interesting because part of the thing with David McGowan, and I think he got cancer after doing a podcast on the Boston Marathon landing. Some say it's coincidence. Who knows? Maybe he just knew too much. But he got that, but and so it's a tragic death because he was such a brilliant mind. And so that's why I've been going down the rabbit hole of David McGowan, because as an investigative journalist, holy shit, the guy was a legend. But So I just wanted to ask you if you had any about that. But the other thing I wanted to ask you, and this may be a little bit on the fungy monkey, so feel free to decline to answer this question if you so feel free. Jeff Epstein, official narrative says that he died by hanging in a cell. Most people, even people in normie land, even people that swallow official narrative nonsense, have questions about that. People in the conspiratorial world will say, hell no, it was, he died, but it wasn't by the official story. I have a theory that he's not even dead. I have serious questions about the body they rolled out. His body, the whole funeral processes seemed like the Osama bin Laden takeout where he was just thrown out in sea. It just seems so fishy. And then you see Ghislaine Maxwell doing green screen podcasts from prison. When the hell has that ever happened? And so my personal belief, I just want to give a preface, and this is where my question is going for you. I don't think he's dead. I don't think Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison. I think it's all for show, just to make it look like something has been done about these travesties. And part of the reason why is because when you look at Maxwell or Epstein, they never really ratted anyone out. They were good little soldiers. They were good at their blackmail game. And when you look at disguising people or doing surgical procedures, it's not far-fetched to completely conceal someone's identity, especially when they've been good assets for you. What are your thoughts on Jeff Epstein's fate? Is he still alive, or did he go out?
I'd love to say that there's some part of it where he, is such it's so like that. It's so conspiratorial that he's alive. But there were a few things behind the scene that happened with Epstein from about 2016 onwards that led to his death. None of this, his death was not to do with the sex trafficking, the blackmail, the girls, none of it. The CIA, the FBI, they don't care about any of that. They don't care about any of that. If you think that someone so powerful with so many deep connections could really be taken down for that, I think he knew the gig was up when he went into jail the second time. He knew it was coming because he had made a decision a few years before, and that decision really was to turn Mohammed bin Salman and Saudi Arabia towards Mossad and away from what was the CIA. And that led to a series of events, including John Brennan stepping down. And I believe that went towards why he was killed. Now, the rest is all cover. Sensationalism is a great way to cover sex scandals. You can do anything under the cover of a sex scandal. And that's what's so interesting. That's what Whitney Webb revealed in the 2 volumes of One Nation Under Blackmail. Once you have a sex scandal, you can do loads of things underneath. Nobody can do it because it gets us in our loins. The people who are mostly in power, mostly have significant power, are men, and men are easily turned on. And a good story with sex romps and stuff. Well, whoa, and you just forget about anything that's going on, and it just happens like that. So there's a load of things that go on behind the scenes, and that's not all. It's not just Saudi Arabia. It's not just the CIA and Mossad skit. There's other reasons, other big reasons. And Jeffrey Epstein had a load of hubris. So if Jeffrey Epstein's hubris had a much longer lifespan than he had. And it comes to a point where it's hard to decide what the fate of Ghislaine shall be, because I agree to some extent that she doesn't have a hard life at the moment. Prison isn't necessarily, they knew where she's
writing pornographic models or novels in prison, and she is considered a model prisoner according to the Daily Mail.
But the thing is, she could serve some time because she knows her time's going to come. That time's going to come to an end. You see?
Can I interject real quick, Mr. Johnny
Yeah,
Vedmore? So
go on.
I know you're getting your spliff ready, so light that bitch up. And I'm swigging my brew. And this is when our conversations get real fun, because I'm already buzzing. I feel like the room is spinning 1,000 miles an hour. That guitar is gonna fly off that fucking wall and smack me right behind my bald ass head, and I'm gonna get pulled over.
That will cause some form of like sensational.
So
it'll cause TikTok to explode.
So I completely and utterly agree with you that it sounds fantastical that Epstein could possibly be alive. I completely get it, man. And so I want to give a little bit more reasoning, a little bit more logic behind it, because
I'm willing to hear the logic, my friend.
Okay. And shoot me down, dude. I welcome it, because I'm always willing to engage in.
I can't say he's not alive. I can't say he's not alive. Can I? Because I just don't know. I just wasn't there, and I just don't know. And he had so many fingers in so many pies. It could be very much he's had a face transplant, and he's
I can take that
somewhere in Switzerland.
And I feel the same way. The opposite way. I feel, okay, maybe he could have died and he got taken out by his cellmate, who was this jacked up dude, Skin Taglioni, or whatever the hell his name was. So I'm not completely opposed to that, but the reasoning that I have is, so when he was arrested in when did he serve time? In 06, was it?
No, 09. It was about 09, 10,
08,
11.
Maybe some shit like that. Whatever the case.
I think it's 09.
Okay.
Maybe it's
so during his first stint, he didn't try to commit suicide. He knew.
No, he had no.
He knew that he was gonna get let off, and this was a serial pedophile back then. Any other quote unquote normal pedophile, your run-of-the-mill pedophile, would have served 20, 30 years at the very minimum in general population. This motherfucker got 13 months, got to conduct business. The security guards were allowed to wear business suits so he could still conduct his business. He was allowed to go home. So it was a fucking sham of a prison sentence. This is what I use as my logic. He knew then that, okay, I got fucking arrested. It's all for show. It's got to look like we're doing something. And so some people that say he knew he was going to die, that's why he committed suicide, or he knew he was going to get locked up, and that's why he committed suicide. I use that first example as logic against it, because he didn't do it then. In his mind, he was a eugenicist. He thought he could have lived forever. He wasn't going to fucking go out just like that. Hell no. And so that's the logic that I use. And again, I admit, maybe he did get taken out by someone named Skin Taglioni, but that's why I'm open-minded. I'm not hard bent on that he's alive, but I have a gut feeling, and I could be way off. I could be dead wrong on this shit, but I have a gut feeling that he's still alive. And the Maxwell, even the arrest, man, when Roger. Was it Roger Stone that had all this SWAT team come to his house at 3 a.m. to arrest him? And yet Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested, right after morning breakfast. No cameras were involved. No news crews were involved. It seems like a complete sham. And then you look at the trial, cameras weren't allowed there. It just seems like all 100% horseshit. So that's why I have a gut feeling. I wish they weren't alive. I'm not rooting for them to be alive. I just have a feeling that they are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Listen, they're powerful enough that they could do something like that. And to be perfectly honest, that what I'm going to map out over the next 3 articles is really will show the extent Epstein went to get off with over 8,000 offenses and not end up with a life in prison. And that will really help to make people understand what quite what a person Epstein was, because people have caricatured him now as some evil, sinister pedophile. Yeah, he's an evil, sinister pedophile and all of that, but that's seriously not all. He was extremely intelligent, extremely strategic, extremely tactical, and once you see the extent of it, it's just extraordinary. He was playing three-dimensional chess with some of the best chess players on earth, and he was a grand master, and in the end he lost the game. Listen, his party boat was really, if he was still alive now, or if he was still be seen as alive, or however we want to pose it, if he was still in existence in the collective consciousness as being alive right now, then it would mean that none of these resets could happen. These ability to say, oh, Noam Chomsky hung around with Epstein, oh, so and so hung around with so, and people to get over it. None of that would be able to get over, because he'd still be around and he'd still be in existence. So I think it makes more sense that eventually he did go too far with some of the things he did. His relationship with Mohammed bin Salman caused lots of problems for America. The fact that he was Mossad means that eventually,
he had a Saudi passport as well. Remember,
Yeah. But the Saudis are well on board with almost anything. You know, you can convince a Saudi to kill themselves if it's for the right reason.
Yeah,
I think we've seen that.
Yeah, Khashoggi, 9/11. The list goes on with the Saudis, man. The Saudis do not.
Don't talk about Khashoggi. Let's not talk about Khashoggi now.
Adnan Khashoggi is a key character in the Epstein story.
About that. We will be talking about that in the coming series. We will be talking about that in the coming series. We will be talking about everything in the coming season.
Hell yeah! Like and subscribe to my man Johnny mother effing Vedmore. No, and that's the thing, man. Like, you are a savant, man, but I'm just a normie. But I've been following this shit. I would say a little bit more than the average person. So I know the characters a little bit more. I'm nowhere near your caliber, 100%. Let's get that out of the way. But that's what got me. This whole Epstein case is what got me into wanting to do a podcast, because I was starting to connect some dots that I kept reading shit. And you just said something that really reminded me from my beginnings into the podcast world, was how a lot of people, and I think it was done by design, when they talk about Epstein, they just think about him as a billionaire pedophile. And that's all, a sex maniac. And that's all. That's all the story. That's all, folks. Move on to the next shit. But what they don't realize is how connected he was to world leaders, whether it's Nance Andrew and ex-Prime Minister Ehud Barak, these big dogs. And then when you look at his Tower Financials career, like we kind of touched on it with Stephen Hoffenberg, where he was involved in a $500 million, $500 billion Ponzi scheme, and he got a slap on the wrist. And this was way back in time. This was in his beginnings, when he was given a teaching job, when he didn't have the credentials to be a damn teacher. So many things when you go back into his history. So what are your thoughts on the book The Spider? Jeffrey Epstein, The Spider. That was one of the books that I read, and I thought they did a fairly good job. They missed a lot of shit, but I thought it was if you're a beginner into Epstein stuff.
I don't know. I just don't know the book. Okay. I mean, I spend a lot of time researching things without reading anybody else's research, because this is so misinformation filled. This is one of the reasons why I've continued. There's been a couple of articles where I've been writing where I've accidentally ended up in somebody else's research, and then you get led down a path. And if you're half in and half out of something, and you're half belief, you can't write the article because now you can't even know what you're thinking. You just got to write all of the information down, and then it'll make it itself. And if you look at anybody else's information, you start to retract or add information that should be in their piece, not in your piece. So I really do avoid reading anybody else's stuff on a lot of, unless it's directly a source for what I'm doing, and I've been led there, and I will always be led to the necessary places. And if I'm talking as well behind the scenes, like different investigators talk about different things and give each, sort of different like, but none of them really like focus on the same thing. None of them focus on the same thing. We're very alone with these little realms that we're focusing in on. So we're very specific in our research. What were you saying? What was the question? Because you said something before that I wanted to talk. I wanted to say something about.
Well, we were. Oh, I did ask you about the book if you had read it, but it sounds like you have done your own research.
You were saying something. You did a fantastic run up to that book and made me think, oh, I gotta say that for sure. I gotta mention that.
Well, I was just mentioning how you reminded me when you were talking about earlier how a lot of people run with that Epstein was just a billionaire pedophile, and that end of story.
Oh yeah. Hey. This is something that's really important. This is what I was thinking. This is what I mean. So it's like it's the people who knew him who would see him as amiable as a person. He was a nice person to the people who knew him. Whatever he did that was horrible and all of that stuff, a lot of these people just didn't see it. It was all behind the scenes. It was all in massage rooms. It was all in whatever. You could pretend it's not happening. You know, most people don't see the thing hitting them in the face over and over again, let alone the things someone else is doing. So they can just not know. But the people who were really close to him and didn't see anything would have called him affable. This is why I keep trying to explain to people, you know, they would have called him like a really nice guy. He's really friendly. He gave me lots of things. And it was a benefit in knowing him and being in a relationship with this type of person. So a load of people have a complete misconception of Jeffrey Epstein being this only child trafficking pedophile. And I like to refer to him as a child trafficking pedophile because that's exactly one of the things he did. But he was also an arms smuggler during the Iran-Contra affair, a hedge fund guy in many different realms, like not just at the start, like being in important deals in hedge funds, but eventually being a very much a specialist. He was a realtor in like really high-end realty estate, I don't know what you call it over there, realty. We call it like
real estate.
He was like estate agent basically.
Real estate agent,
stuff I've done. Yeah, he was a real estate agent to some extent. He was a spy. He was like that a member of the Mossad. He was a Ponzi scheme, headed up at half a bit. Like you say, it's just the amount of things he did made him not just a child trafficking pedophile, made him one of the most complex and skilled actors in the dark arena of high-end elite establishment fuckery. That's where he was. He was right up the top of the elite establishment fuckery. And if there's only a few people up there, and do you know what? And this is one thing that's going to come up in the articles as well. Loads of them are all involved in this one case.
Go to JohnnyVedmore.com, y'all, so you don't miss it.
Yeah, JohnnyVedmore.com and newspaste.com. My central focus is newspaste.com now. It's not only I want to try and find a way to link everybody up with everything independent media, but also like have my work on there so that people can have like originals, showcase other people's work as well, have podcasts out there.
Hey, I'm a free agent, Johnny. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, we can find a way to incorporate it. I want to incorporate loads of voices inside a platform that allows it to be a place where people can find other people, because that's like finding a community. You find a community as an independent journalist. I go out there, and eventually, however much I keep reporting on the same sort of things, and I make all of these different connections with loads of different people over time, and then I know the whole community. But it took me a long time to do that, and I think we could put I didn't know who was in the whole community at the start either. It would have been nice to have a hub where people can really just like branch out and find loads of information and have proper conversations that fucking go beyond the is this the thing that's in the news at the moment. This is the most important thing, but talk about stuff that's esoteric, and talk about the stuff we're not allowed to talk about, the stuff that's banned. Oh, I love talking about banned stuff because I don't have to believe it, and I don't have to not believe it. I can be like, at the end of the day, I always come back to the rationalization that we're simulations all the way down for affinity. So I mean, none of it really matters too much anyway, but as we're here doing all of this stuff, we may as well examine it and do it well. So it's a really complicated sort of business reality, the world, what the universe is, what God is, all of this sort of stuff.
What is
we need
truth?
to all have loads of conversations. What is truth? We need
what
to
is
have
truth,
all
Johnny?
of these conversations. Man.
So I had a Dr. Bruce on about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. One of my favorite conversations of all time. He's a retired engineer. And if you want to catch that conversation, go to my Rockfin, go to my Spotify. One of my favorite conversations, because the dude was a sweetheart and he has serious questions, and he's coming from an engineering background, science, logic. You can't say this guy is just a fruitcake that doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He knows exactly what he's talking about, and he had serious questions. But one of the things, when we made so we recorded one show, and unfortunately the stream went to shit. The sound was crap, and I had to toss it away. So we made scheduled another appointment. We recapped some of the first stuff, but he wanted to talk about what is truth, and it seems like such a basic question, man. And when you really, really get into the nitty-gritty of it, it's really complex. So I want to pose a question to you, Mr. Johnny Vedmore, because you are an interesting mind. You are a connoisseur of sorts. What is truth to you?
Right, well, so it's probably going to be, I mean, I'm going to explore this now in my own mind, because, you know, I've probably answered this question in different ways over for years and years and years, but I suppose it's probably the opposite of the lie, of the falsehoods, of what's not real, of what's not right, of what's, you know, the truth is the opposite of whatever those bad things are. Wherever you can go that allows you to be able to not hide and not be nasty and not have all these sinister things around you is probably a place of truth, and that would be where the truth lies, and what you find there would be truth, and that would be what spoken truth, visual truth, audio truth, which type of truth, all of it. If we play music, is that true? If it's been made another time and we're organically putting it into our mind, what is truth? And that's like fundamental questions that really get right up inside me, because I spend a lot of time trying to understand what reality is, what's really happened, and calling that truth. But in amongst it, you're cutting up people's lies and misrepresentations and misunderstandings all over the place. So the truth is a complex set of misunderstandings, is a complex set of untruths. The truth, if I was to tell you the truth about a falsehood, then I would be telling you something that is false, wouldn't I? So what is truth? And I've done a lot of psychedelics in my time. So I'd say that I've like posed this sort of question in a way that I was external to my own sort of like problems, everyday mundane life problems, my own personal individual problems. And I'd say the truth is completely knowing like love for other human beings, like complete pure love. Like when I think about the question, I go back to a time where I was sitting in darkness after an epic dose of mushrooms, and I had my eyes closed, and it was complete silent. I mean, there was not a noise around, and I could, like, in a sense, feel these buzzing and or see or perceive just in my mind's eye the buzzing energy of myself and the buzzing energy of my brother from another mother up there in the distance sleeping, and over there more, and over there, and everything else. All of the matter around us is it's a distraction to everything, and the truth is that nothing is, or this is all unreal, this is all wrong, this is all right, this is all amazing, we're experiencing something, but none of it seems real. So what is truth? I just felt is like the fact that there's people, there's something, an energy that you love within people, within creatures, within living things. There's an energy that what we see, what we hear, is that true? I think those are maybe the distractions, but they're wonderful in their own ways, and they're negative in their own ways. What is truth is that energy that's inside that wants to combine with other energy in a positive way and create something new. And the universal truth is creation, is a universe just recycles. It's a cycle. The truth is that cycle. The truth is revolution. The truth is that you know that everything will begin and everything will end, that you cannot come off that, you cannot change, you can only start again. The truth is that you can only like the idea of moving forward is like one of the most naive things that we could possibly do, because that's not true, is it? We never move forward. We move around in a circle up the other side and back to where we are. And we don't live long enough to learn any of those lessons to stop the cycle. We have a very certain amount of a lifespan, so it means we keep on this cycle. And maybe, and this is what the hope was that as medicine improves and all of these different things, we will be able to understand a separate, different truth about ourselves, because we will be given the opportunity and the time to have an extended period of peak, like the peak time when our brain is working at the most, where we've lived for 30, 40 years and we've started to understand what is going on, and we can then explain it to other people. And then we suddenly start to get old, and we're infirm, and we forget everything all the time, and we've got a very short amount of time to actually do anything about it and tell anybody, and oh my God. Well, if we could extend that, then the definition of truth will change, and then the definition of what we're seeing with the idea of technocracy moving into transhumanism. That sort of like we're moving into technocracy, so automatically we're feeling like we're being compelled to move also into transhumanism, and we're entering into a different state where there'll be different truths. The truth is that you're combined, you're one. Yeah, but what does that mean? That we should all share the same consciousness, and we should all exist in a realm of weird energy where we're all feeling lighted and wonderful, depending if someone turns the knob up this way or the knob up down that way. What is a knob? we're entering into the realms of the insane, and the truth that we know is what we're born with, and is that we get, the truth is we come in with nothing, we go with nothing. The truth is that worrying is an unnecessary expenditure of energy. There's no point in it. That what does worrying do? It just leads to more worrying, and it doesn't solve any problems, and you can only do things. And that's the only way you can change things, is by committing actions. What is truth is that all of these actions are building up and building up and building up into a crescendo. What's your personal individual truth as a creature on Earth? What are you as a monkey? What are you as a dog or a cat? What's your individual truth? What's my individual truth as a human? Well, is it a combination of my experiences? Is it a combination of experiences of other people that have affected my life that I have no sort of real input in, and I'm just bouncing around like a pinball. What is the truth to everything that I've done? What is, there's so many different types of truths, and what's the bigger and what's the smaller, and what matters more. It's almost impossible to go into that realm without going into the unreal and the false. And there's where that's one of the things the truth is. It's like quantum shit, isn't it? You look at it, you look at it, you stare at the truth enough, and soon it forms a lie inside your head. And suddenly you're no longer in the truth. So the truth is changing, it's constant, it flows, it moves, it's a wave. For me, my truth, if I was to tell you what my perceived truth, my understanding of what my reality, how life works, once I understood, I let the wave take me, and the wave has taken me consistently from that point on. I have no control over most of what goes on in my life. It turns out, just throws in front of me the next thing I've got to do, throws in front of me the next thing I got to do, and so on and so forth. And as soon as you're on the wave, there's no way to get off the wave, and it is individual to you anyway. It's been given to you, whether it's been given to you by the universe or God, or whether it's been given to you by your own sense of what is true and what is false. Is the wave just a sense of your own truth pushing you forward to continue on that line of truth, hoping that you find what is true when you won't find out what is true? You will never know what is true. Never. None of us will. I won't know. You won't know. No one will know. Yet we're on this wave where you get on that wave and you just keep it going forward, and you keep looking forward for it. What you're going to do is expend lots of energy doing positive things, trying to find a positive outcome, because we know what a lie is, we know what falsehoods are as well, or do we? Because that's what one creates the other. Our idea of what one is leaves us with an idea of what the other is anyway. And we know that the one place, the negativity, sadness, we know where all of that lies. And we know that it seems like in every one of our lives, we're going to have that in equal measure. So what is truth? Truth is half of what you get. Truth is half of what you get in life. And the rest is lies. Who gives you the lies? Nearly always yourself. We spent the first half of our life lying to ourselves, and maybe we spend the second half of our lives lying to others. Maybe that's how it works. Who knows? Maybe it's a complex interwoven mix. I talk to people and say that some people say that it's like 50-60%, or even more. Some people say 70% of what we say every day to other people is in a sense a lie. Is partly misleading, and that we carefully manufacture our words, so much so that we basically tell people lies all of the time. And maybe we do, and maybe it's societal, maybe it's culture. Do we know the truth? What's the truth of someone online who you're talking to who's never met you, to the truth of someone who's sitting next to you, can feel your energy and can reach out and hold you? Yeah. What's the truth?
Everyone online seems to be, a freaking UFC champion, 7'6".
They got all the filters for it, man. They got all the filters. The lies. They got all the filters to hide what is true, because what is true hurts you too. Yeah. What is true, and looking directly into your face, into the face of the child you were once upon a time, and looking at the truth of who you have been and who you have turned into, will torture your fucking soul. Yeah. Anybody will have their torture. So what do? They put a filter upon themselves, because you need a filter on your life, because otherwise you'll cry all the time. But what does crying do for them? They're like, oh, I don't want to cry all the time. Get through the crying, because the crying is the truth, and the truth leads you to the other side, and then you don't cry anymore because you're in the truth.
Damn, Johnny, motherfucking Vedmore.
Yeah,
that's what's up. Because it's interesting, everything that you said right now. So I told you that I asked this question to Dr. Bruce a couple of weeks ago, and on the Spotify poll, I asked people, how many true things do you believe? So if you follow me on Spotify, fucking participate, man. You're anonymous, doesn't show up, just participate. It's just a social experiment. But I asked the question, how many things that you know in life are indeed true? And I put 100% as a joke, because you'd be a fool to say everything that you know right now is 100% true. You get proven wrong every fucking day. And then I put 80%, 70%, 60%, 50% or fewer. The biggest response was 50% or fewer, which to me was quite telling. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting most people to be like, yeah, most of the shit that I know right now, I could be wrong on a couple of things, but mostly I am correct. For people to write 50% or fewer was like, damn, people are humble about this shit. Like, yeah, we really don't know, man. So many times a certain thing gets brought up, a certain topic gets brought up, and we get too emotionally invested in it. And in reality, we don't know much about this certain thing. But we're down to fucking fight. We're down to call other motherfuckers out and talk shit.
Okay, wait.
And die for the cause, but we really don't know shit about it. You know what I'm saying?
Think about this. Okay, think about another question.
Let's do this. This is Johnny Vedmore's poll question.
My God.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but
Spotify.
this is a difficult one. You'll see how this is a difficult one. You'll see how difficult.
All right, let's see
how you can word it.
Fuck yeah.
Okay, right. So basically, right. What is a pervert? But what is a pervert? And this is the point I want to make. What is a pervert in the 1500s? What is a pervert in 1850? What is a pervert in 1925? What is a pervert in 1945? What is a pervert in 1970s or 1960s? What's a pervert in the 1980s? What's a pervert in the 1990s? What's a pervert in the noughties? And what is a pervert coming up right now? What is a pervert? Because everything throughout time, if you look at how things have changed and how we culturally see things, and the similarities and the what does it say about our direction? What does it say about all the other things too? And there's loads of questions that can be asked like that. I'm not sure how easy that's to put in the poll.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one to put in poll form, but I thought about that as well, because you look back just a few decades ago to the time of the Beatles. One of their songs, Ringo Starr was talking about banging out a 16-year-old girl. And that was topping the charts. You do that song today, and you will be getting topped off in prison. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's crazy, and so many things. Like, you're seeing a weird push towards even crazy things like animal love. You're seeing this furry shit getting pushed on. Oh, I'm in love with my microwave. You're seeing people fall in love with their car's muffler. Weird shit going on. So that question that you're asking, what is a pervert in the 1500s and what is a pervert in all these preceding decades? Dude, it seems to change from time and era. But then again, some of it goes back. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the things that we look back right now in this given time and we look like, well, that was normal back then. And you can go back a century, and maybe it's taboo today, but you can simply go back a century or two and it was perfectly fine back then. So it's kind of like what you were talking about, this truth being a circular thing where you're not going forward, you're just going around and around, and it completely relates, because again, some of the shit that's completely taboo and off limits today was perfectly fine a couple centuries ago. And then in a weird sense, you're kind of seeing a push for it right now to be okay. So what? God damn it, man. What the hell is truth at the end of the day?
witch burning has changed throughout the eras, but we all recognize it for what it is, and it takes loads of different forms. It still leads with people dying. It still ends up with people dying, or that's the output. Energy input, human effort output, people dying. Is that the truth?
And that leads
might be the truth.
Yeah, that leads to another thing where pattern recognition. It sounds funny, but if you analyze patterns, you follow things, and you're like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. I've heard, and it's easy to use. Let's say you're in a relationship with fucking Mary Poppins for to keep things on. Fuck Mary Poppins. She was a hoe.
Is that what I'm going to be in a relationship with Mary Poppins? Like some form of Dick Van Dyke character. I can't even do a proper Dick Van Dyke. I can only do London. I went, Mary, get in the kitchen, Mary, and do the dishes, bitch.
Mary
anyway, go on.
Fucking Poppins.
Mary fucking Poppins. Yeah, okay, let's stop with this quickly. Okay. I spoke too much for repeated Mary Poppins live on YouTube.
But so let's suppose you're in a relationship with an abusive Mary Poppins. He fucking shoots up meth, does a lot of drugs. She comes home, and you're a single father, and she comes home. And you're working your 50 hours a week as trying to raise your kids.
You started off pretty sexy and it's gone downhill.
No, Mary Poppins.
What? She's on meth and she's evil.
She's a crackhead on this version.
Oh, this sexy. What? I gotta do all the work. Oh, Mary.
Mary fucking Poppins. Yeah, she.
You do Dick Van Dyke
I think I have
a
point, but I may be too drunk. Let's see if I can articulate it. But the point is, fuck, what were we talking about? Okay, I think I know. We were talking about alternate realities, and so I think that's what we're. Fuck, god damn it, I lost my train of thought. So let's just leave it at that. Mary Poppins is a saint.
It was Mary Poppins that was the problem.
It was starting to pop in. But yeah, I fucked it up. No, I think what I was trying to go with was how you can have a reality where the truth is that the truth behind the mascara, behind all that shit, Mary Poppins is a crack hoe. Who doesn't care about her family, but
yes, she
for
is.
The
yes,
cameras,
you are quite right.
For the cameras and all other intent, she's a shining civilian that provides for the country and blah. And it's just an alternate reality. And so when your eyes are only focused on one thing, maybe you're only focused on the Mary Poppins as this heroic figure. Fucking female power, pro woke star, and that's the only image you ever know. So maybe for you, that's the only truth that exists. Mm-hmm. And so, but the reality, when you dig behind the wounds and you lift up that scab and you see the real true Mary Poppins, she's the method. I don't know why I keep going.
Yeah,
but you know what I'm saying? It's two different realities, and how do you fucking know which one to go with?
No, because like you don't, do you? You just keep nearly everybody in the world is. Oh, I don't want to say this. Oh no, I'm gonna say this. Nearly everybody in the world is a liar. Yeah, so they walk around and they're like, I'm this person. I dress like this. I act like this. I do all of this. And once you get into an intimate situation with them, you're in bed with them. They're a completely different character. They're completely different.
Yeah.
They become a melty being who loves and just feels intense emotion, has no idea of wanting to harm, wanting to hurt. It's completely relaxed. It's completely down. People are really. They want to be something, and they expend a lot of energy to project a vision of themselves, and none of it's true, is it?
Yeah.
None of it's true. It goes back to the fact of whether it's true or not. And people are projecting images all over the place. And I have this like I've got a couple of like I'm on my journalism and all of this, and I love doing this and I love doing that, and I got loads of different things that I really love. But my real love is just talking to people. It's just having conversations with one-to-one, in person, with people on the street, around people's houses, in the park, having conversations with people and exploring how people's minds work and watching how their behavior is and feeling funny about it. And, you know, I just want to, I want to see people for what they are. And I can see all of this. I'm really good at being able to see when people are hiding something and when people are trying to say something, but they don't really mean it. And I have to sometimes like go round what we say round the mulberry bush. We've got to do a turn to get round to be able to actually make them understand. They don't have to fear saying something. You discover that nearly everybody lies all of the time. Everybody, they want to, they put across an idea of themselves, and people will even be shocked by the fact that you say it and you explain it all in detail, and they'll go, yes, that's me completely. And that's like with loads of subjects all over the place. You tell someone something and they're insulted, you explain it in detail and they go, oh yeah, that's me. It's people automatic first reaction is not true. So what is true? True is what you see an hour down the line, a day down the line, a week down the line when you look back. True is never maybe of the moment either. True is like is almost ethereal. You could do what's true, but it can only be judged later. So true may be judgment. That can be also what was there with truth. Other than that, Mary Poppins impressions. That's what's real true.
Man, sorry, bro. No, I mean, when you get in the heat of it, everything that you say, I agree with, whether it's true or not. And so the point of the matter is, it's really hard to tell what the hell is true. So that little poll question where I ask people, how many of the things do you go in life knowing are true or not? I think that poll is still up, so definitely participate if you haven't done so already. I think 50% or lower is not a bad response, because how do you really know, man? There's a lot of things that I've learned along the way that I thought I was 100% sure about, man. I thought beyond any reasonable doubt, this is what the fuck it is, man. And then I started digging deeper and deeper,
over and over, man.
And I'm like, oh shit, things aren't what they appear to be, man. And you know, that's one of the appealing things that I have with you, Mr. Johnny Vedmore, apart from your ruggish good looks, is that I like you. I like to feel like I have a good barometer on people. And are they bullshitting me? Are they just fucking talking out of their ass? And I like to feel like there's some people that I'm like, oh man, all right, I'm gonna be nice. I'm not gonna talk shit, but this motherfucker's off his rocker right now. And I'm not sure he believes the bullshit that they're talking about right now. And I'm talking about people like Uncle Terrence's and stuff like that, man. But with you and certain people, you get these vibes like, okay, maybe they're not. They could be incorrect, but I know they believe it. I know that they truly ascribe to this, and they're not pulling any fucking shenanigans. I respect that more, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm 41 years old now. The older I get, my perspective just keeps changing, man. It seems like when I was 27, I started to look at the world a lot different than when I was 21. I looked at the world when I was 21 far different than when I was 17, and so on and so forth. Every few years, you reflect back like, oh shit, this is not what I thought it was. And I think I grew up in a world where I trusted authority. I trusted my elders. That's no disrespect on folks that are older than me. No disrespect at all. It's just I thought there was infallibility for whatever reason in it. As I've gotten older, I've been screwed. I've been stabbed in the back. I've been lied to in the face. Looking at me dead right in the goddamn eye sockets. And you learn to be like, you know what? Fuck you. Fuck you. You may be cool, but fuck you too. And so it's with experience level with a lot of this shit. And I think the question of what is truth at the end of the day is just an ongoing journey that never goes away. I build a good, decent friendship with Johnny Barber, who is 93 years of age. He covered the JFK assassination. He became good friends with Jim Garrison, the Attorney General of Louisiana, who pressured for the JFK files. He's 93 years old. I'm 41. He looks at me like a baby. I feel like an old man. I'm starting to get injured more.
You are. We both are. Yeah. You get older, the more the first thing you learn when you get older. I was saying this to man. I'm like an old man. I'm sitting outside in the rocking chair. Yeah, today in the sunshine. I'm eating a peach. I wasn't eating a peach, but that really adds to it. I was actually drinking a cup of tea. And this kid, he's 24, and he's telling me his existence, and he's very proud of everything. And he's like told me his journey, and his journey so far is incomplete. For me, I've seen the journey over and over. This kid's gonna get it. Like, you know, he's got a lovely life. Hey, he's got a beautiful wife. He's got 4 kids already. He's 24 years old. He's got a place to live. It's a really nice place to live as well. He lives right by where I live, and it's like a really nice community. And he's got the ability to go out and work and do all of those things. But I was telling him that you know, he's gonna have to wait, because you wait. He's not cooked yet. Eventually,
life is gonna hit him real quick.
Yeah, eventually, once you get through it, you'll be like, you'll realize that the you standing in front of me now knows nothing at all, and that the future you will look back and go, oh my God, I was so confident that I knew everything back then. And I did as well. I knew everything, and the pain you feel, and you don't know, you pretend you know, and you just don't see yourself. You don't see what you need to do. I told him as well, you know, that we were talking about truth to an extent, because I was saying the same thing to him. At some point, he'll know what he needs to do. At the moment, he's not doing that. And I might sound a little bit harsh, but
it's not harsh at all, bro. Because go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, it's just like he's a really nice kid, but there's a load of kids out there who they can turn from being a really nice kid to a fucking amazing man. Like, he's 24 years old. If he goes on his journey to find out who he is, and he steps onto the wave, and he lets the truth take him, then it will take him in the direction which is true, and he will find his own individual personal truth. And that will lead him down a path which will end up in him looking back at that 24-year-old standing in front of me there and then, and he will say, you know nothing. And then he'll realize that he knows nothing compared to the person who's down the line, further on down the line, and so on and so forth. And where it just does not end. It just does not end. There's this feeling of like, as you get older, the younger you feel, because the older people, you realize how much more they've had to see, how much more they've had to go through. And that experience does mean something. Going through stuff does mean something.
I was thinking about that the last couple of days. When I was younger, I've always been a small dude, but I've always been fit.
What Were you always a chimney sweep?
Pretty much.
Sorry, I go back to Mary Poppins. I do apologize. Go on.
Fucking Poppins. No, man, dude, you already know, Johnny. I feel like you and I are kindred spirits. Real quick, when I first contacted you, I had heard you on my boy Eriove's podcast. Eriove Moric is my fucking dog, man. And I heard you on, and I'm pretty wild, as you can tell. I'm pretty eccentric, as you can see. And I heard you on being eccentric. I'm like, man, me and Johnny get together, we'll fucking blow some lids. So I knew we were gonna hit it off, and we did the first podcast. This is our third one, I believe. And so go back to the back catalog and check out if you enjoyed this conversation so far and you haven't run away, go back to the back catalog and check out the first couple conversations that Johnny and I had. But what I was trying to get at was when I was younger, I was super athletic. I may not have been huge, like stature wise, but I was always in shape. Pretty fucking strong. I played American football. I was a star running back. I would get hated on because I would always get praises. Like if we played a game on Friday nights, Monday morning, they would say my name in the high school, and my teammates would be like, "How come we didn't get any praise, motherfucker?" Because I was the only one doing shit that game, motherfuckers. But anyways, and then I became a firefighter for several years. I got to see a lot of the USA traveling, doing that shit. The hardest physical job I have ever done. Then I became a garbage man. I've done a lot of fucking blue collar shit, man. I've never. I did have a time where I did real good in real estate when the economy was good. But when that shit came down, I wasn't scared to get my hands dirty, and I did physical shit. So I've always felt like myself as a physical specimen, man. Now that I've been hitting my 40s, I'm 41, man, I tried running with my 15-year-old son. I'm still faster than him. But I ran, and 10 seconds later, I pulled my fucking hamstring. I was out for 2 weeks. Then I get healed off of that. Then I'm doing my pull-ups. I can do over 30 pull-ups in a row at 41 years of age, which I think is somewhat decent. I did 41 my pull-ups, and then I bent down to put my sunglasses down, and I tweaked my back. Fuck, dude, getting old sucks balls, man. But I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, isn't it fucking weird how it's almost like a fucking, what do I call it? Like a fucking pie chart of going up and decline, where maybe physically you can't do the things that you could do when you were in your 20s, but mentally you are so much more superior. And it seems to be like this fucking crisscross. You know what I'm saying? Like your physicality is declining, no fucking doubt. But now your mental prowess, you can go up to some motherfucker that comes up to you and proposes this or that, and be like, bitch, I'm skeptical of you because I've been fucked in the past. And it's a weird fucking crisscross. Do you see what I'm trying to say, Johnny?
Yeah, man. Oh man, such a different. My whole confidence level is like soaring nowadays. I've known myself for quite a long time. I've known what I want to do and what I need to do for quite a long time. So I'm really confident with myself. And at some point, I didn't used to be confident with myself at all. I had severe anxiety with OCD's tendencies. At the peak, my fingers felt like they were just like drying up beyond belief, and I had to rub them with like some sort of liquid. I'd have to get like water and just like put it under, just like soothe myself, be like, oh, that's good. And I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to interact with people. And that lasted for years. And that was like an abundance of things. That was partly to do with like being groomed and violent upbringing and all sorts of different things. And sort of that was the build up to me having loads of experiences in school with bullying and stuff, and you know, people not getting on, fights happening, being worried about going into school, things happening, and getting to the point where it was just like I had just gone into my shell and hidden away, and I did that for so long, and I got to a point where I was on I was on fluoxetine, I was on clomipramine, I was on fucking what was that other stuff? Oh, I can't remember some other fucking stuff too. And anyway, they what does it help? It blurs you out, makes you think not be able to think, makes you murky, makes you not want to look around as much, makes you scared, makes you feel alone in an area full of people. And when you come off all of that, and I came off all of that. And eventually, when I was standing out there, I realized I'm the most confident person. And it looks like all of these people are on fluoxetine and clomipramine and whatever other fucking shit you need to take, or the doctor says you need to take to stop you feeling like fucking suicidal in an awful world. And the suicidal feeling is really just not doing what you need to do. Just denying your cause, your fundamental urge to be free and to go on your own journey of personal truth. That thing kills people, just murders people. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. You
were just dropping bits of wisdom, man. These kind of little things that we're going over, like what is truth, even aging. Because I think you and I are roughly about the same age, Johnny.
Bro, I'm. It's really weird because I had I had Graves' disease, and it meant that
what is that?
Well, it was undiagnosed.
Okay.
It's like a thyroid disease that basically is caused hyperthyroidism on a really high scale, and it pumps out thyroid. So I ended up like 27 years old, 8.5 stone, and nearly dying. And I had been complaining about all of these symptoms from when I was 13, and they just kept telling me everything was normal and over again. And basically, loads of thyroids going off, sometimes 10 times, sometimes an extraordinary. I can't even say the figure because I can't even believe it myself. Multiplier of fires going off in my system, and that did loads of different things to me. So it made me ill nearly all of the time, and it was an autoimmune disease. So I would catch a cold, and I would get really, really the heavy end of it for 2 weeks instead of just a couple of days or something. So I had that like all the way up until I was about 27, 28, and they diagnosed it, and then they come along and were like, okay, we're going to put you on this carbimazole and some replacement. And the carbimazole stuff also takes away your immune system really badly, and I just ended up ill. And then they were supposed to only do it for 6 months, and then it was 3 years, and then they gave me radioactive treatment that fucked me up for a while, and then they cut out my thyroids eventually. So it basically meant that I wasn't completely and utterly, like I was always almost dying up until the time I was about 30. And so after that, it's all been uphill. So like now I'm really kind of like fairly fit, apart from my problems with toes, because I got a problem with my toe, which it can be sorted out, and I'm probably going to get sorted out soon, and then I'll be able to walk up mountains again. Yeah, sorted. Yeah, so you can get it sorted soon on the NHS. All I do is go in and say, hey, Mister, would you please fix my toes? They have horns on them, and I don't want horns on them because I heard they rub against my skin, don't you know? And he'll say, oh yes, okay, well please join the queue. It'll take 6 months, and maybe you'll just end up in some form of chamber where we let you go, if you know what I mean. Because I'm talking about pathways. We're gonna put you on the pathways caused to death. There you go. Goodbye. You got toe horns. Stamp. Immediate elimination from the population.
You're sounding like Schofield now.
Oh God! Oh, hey, this is amazing. It's amazing. Let me
ask your thoughts on that, Johnny, on Schofield, because a lot of people listening that's going to be listening to this is going to be from the UK. Schofield has been a hot issue. One of my friends, he's a big YouTuber. Shout out to Chancer. He covered Schofield. He got 500,000 views on his Schofield video, and he only had 8,000 subscribers at the time, which was pretty freaking epic. But for those American viewers, because my audience is starting to slowly be more American than UK listeners, who the hell is Philip Schofield? What kind of fucking nonsense has he gotten himself into?
Well, the first time that I was introduced personally as a child in the UK to a young Philip Schofield was maybe it was 1987, 1988, sometime around then, where he brought out something is an equivalent, a little like a puppet thing like this, but it wasn't a virus like this. It's my little puppety virus thing, which I quite like. I thought I'd get this because, of course, virus and puppets today. But he had a thing called Gordon the Gopher, yeah? And Gordon the Gopher, he was in the broom closet. That was his official start out. The BBC broom closet with Gordon the Gopher. And Gordon the Gopher was a squeaky little gopher who went squeak, 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 squeak. And it was a hand puppet, of course. And basically, you'd go and you'd go into Philip Schofield's his closet. You'd go into the broom closet with Philip Schofield and a squeaky toy, and he would tell you, he never told me specifically to take my clothes off, but in hindsight, when I look back, when I was younger, I took my clothes off a lot, so maybe that was Philip Schofield who did that. But it is true. It's true. The broom closet on BBC is the first place I remember Philip Schofield with his little squeaky Gordon the Gopher. And of course, I was a kid, so I loved Gordon the Gopher. If you had given me a chance to meet him, I would have been interested. And he's really just like, I suppose that might have been very early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I can't quite remember. But I mean, only about 3-4 years before is like the end of the reign of Jimmy Savile, really. You know, when I was brought up with Jimmy Savile on TV all the time, and my
are you roughly around my age, Johnny? Before you continue,
probably 75. Okay. Yeah,
you don't have to tell me how old you are, but you already know what.
I'm 43. I'm 43 years old. I was born
we're the same
in
age,
1980.
I'm only asking because it puts the era into perspective for me, at least. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. For me, when I was like when I went out with this girl once who I had gone to school with, she was such a wonderful human. And later on, we met later on in school. She said I was some sort of dwarf impish creature, so she wasn't interested in me at all. That doesn't make sense.
Was her name Mary Poppins?
I was very no, I won't say her name, but I will say, in actual fact, she was very much like a Mary Poppins. She was such a lovely, she was a very nice human being. She was a very caring human being, and she liked to see the world as nice all of the time. And what were we talking about here? What were we talking about?
We were talking about young Philip Schofield.
Oh yeah, she had written to Jimmy Savile to be on Jim Will Fix It when she was young. She was about 6 years old or something, and she had written in and asked to Jim Will Fix It, will you fix it for me to pick up sticks? Because she couldn't think of anything at the time. And of course, picking up sticks probably wouldn't have hit the ratings that well, so they didn't invite her on the show. So it ended up with her never meeting Jimmy Savile, which was very lucky for her that she ended up choosing something like picking up sticks. But that era was full of these sort of type of people on TV. BBC. Rolf Harris was one of the main throughout this period. Rolf Harris was one of the main people. He's still serving his prison sentence, I think. I think he's still in prison for molesting a child. He was one of the main people who was on TV alongside these people, always on like the BBC and stuff. So Philip Schofield, you started off in his broom closet, and slowly he presented different things on BBC, and he was always like children related at first, and then eventually, as he got older, he went into musicals, and he eventually he was Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat. Oh man, there's going to be so much that haunts that man. I can't even imagine. Actually, looking at his career, I can't even imagine how many secrets are in that closet, because he was in the theatre for years and presenting things still on TV, and had a pretty big public image, and then became like, nowadays, sort of had become the conscience of the people type representation on the mainstream media of oh well, you should think about things this way, and all these things are bad and these things are good. The people who place the virtue inside you. He was a virtue placer, I suppose that's what we could call it, in a show that was just like a morning show, just after the morning, like between about, I think it starts about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then goes through to about 12. I haven't watched it for years. It used to have the show used to have a guy hopping around on the map, and that was the only good thing about that show. And the map was on an island and had water all around it, and he had to jump across to tell the weather. That was the only good thing about it. But the rest of it is a load of, dramatizing nonsense and trying to implant the government propaganda line or the current establishment propaganda line into the narrative. It was one of those shows. And that's why he's been on for ages. And then it like when he started like the whole coming out stuff, you knew something was popping. And there's a few people like this. I mean, oh man. So there's a few guys in the BBC who are old-time BBC guys who seem to be attracted to guys who are between the ages about 16, 17, 18, 19.
Oof. Yeah.
There seems to be a few of them, and it's very worrying.
Yeah,
so, it definitely. So I was just having a listen to what's going on out there. I think my housemate's home. So it's Schofield is definitely one of them, but there's a few people in that area of old-time BBC children's presenters and the BBC radio presenters. I mean, I've done an article and a few bits now about Tim Westwood, who was a BBC DJ. Now, BBC Radio 1 DJ, and Savile was a BBC Radio 1 DJ, and all these BBC Radio 1 DJs. And what it is about men who get into certain positions, get access to young girls and children, and then abuse their access and do something terrible to these kids. And it's a reoccurring theme, and it seems to be that their selection process encourages that and causes that to happen. In Schofield's case, of course, he's been accused of like, what do you think of boys who?
I'm sorry.
I'll just say it looks like he looks like he may be a pederast.
A groomer, at the very least, a groomer. Yeah. What about Katie Hopkins? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, she's an interesting one, and I kind of have sympathy for her because she has so much negative press about her, and they give her so much shit all of the time. And they write some really nasty stuff about Katie Hopkins. She's made herself that sort of figure. She's made herself a figure where she's going to be combative, and she says, like, say anything you like about me, I don't care. I'm going to say anything I like. And I kind of like that, but some of the stuff she says so much stuff. And, you know, I think some of these people may have started off being in a boat with a load of people who were really dodgy, and then just realized that they're all terrible, the other side are all terrible, and they just like, she's on a path looking for her own individual independent truth, and it's not easy to decipher what that truth looks like in some areas and very obvious in other areas. And I quite like I like listening to these people. These people are interesting. She's not someone I go out my way to listen to. That march, that protest I went on, the Voice of Wales guys speak with Katie Hopkins, and I think that's like the fairest part of society, when people who you don't agree with their views necessarily or that sort of stuff. I don't even feel like that about Katie Hopkins. Katie Hopkins says a load of things that are right and a load of things that sound like she's just trying to get attention and trying to make people look her way. That's all very nice, but at the end of it, you've got to have some substance behind it. You know, you were saying something earlier. I never got to say. I can't remember what it was related to, but like these people say a lot of stuff, and I say a lot of stuff, and you know, I can't tell you that I know what is going on. I can tell you what I've researched and what I've got sources for. I can't tell you what is going on. I don't know what is going on. That's my truth. My truth is I'm on a constant exploration, and I accept that there's probably a grand probability that I'm wrong about stuff and I'm right about stuff that I personally believe. But what I try and do in my articles is present fact and evidence and source it up with so that from where it's come from, so that it's not really, in a sense, me. I'm just a delivery vessel for a combination of information that's spread all over the web. You know, all over books, in areas, in databases hidden away. I look for that information. I put it in chronological order, and I make it into a way that people can digest it without puking, and then people can then have all of that information all in one place. I put lots of spread out information all in one place. I can't tell you whether only the very end of any of my articles do I give my sort of like opinion. I try, even when I'm going through editing process, to take out things where I suggest how I feel about things, even because it shouldn't be about that. It has to have the emotional output taken away. So when you look at someone like Katie Hopkins and something, there is a lot of emotion in what she does, but she doesn't do the same type of thing anyway. She's very much trying to cause trying to spark a fire, and I understand why she's trying to spark the fire, and the fire needs to be set. You know, there needs to be some form of change. Something needs to change.
A reckoning.
She can see that. Yeah, and I don't think she's a bad person per se, but she is definitely she's definitely a rabble rouser, and for that I like it. That you need a load of sticks if the fire's going to start, and she's definitely a stick sticking it in there. So
would you say? Would you say? I'm sorry, I'm drunk. Would you say she's a bundle of sticks?
Yeah, she's a dangerous bundle of sticks. She is. She's a dangerous. She is. She's
a danger the bundle of sticks. You know what I'm saying?
I like it. I like the fact she says things. It causes them to have to like say something back and show their face. And like the establishment media created Katie Hopkins more than anybody else. You know, it's the same with lots of these different people. And I don't think they completely. I also don't know why they get so much attention anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. It's obviously the people poisoners. Yeah, I know. We all need Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to save us. That's what we need. I don't know what the truth lies in that.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, it sounds like I'm a Debbie Downer. It sounds like I'm black-pilled AF, which I am. I'm not gonna deny it, but I just don't see no positivity, man. You can't hold these mainstream figures in a heroic light, whether it's Trump, whether it's RFK Jr., whether it's Katie fucking Hopkins. None of these, they're all dodgy, man, and so you got to pick your battles and hope for the best.
Well, I like I say, I like anybody who causes a little bit of trouble. Anybody who stirs up something.
Yeah, but Elon Musk is doing the same thing, but at the same time, he's advocating for brain chips. You know what I say?
And the problem is not the advocating for brain chips, it's the people who will stick brain chips in their head. So, we've got to try and intercept those people beforehand and have a conversation with them about what that means. And this is the thing about that we're going to have, especially on this side of the independent media debate, we're going to have a debate about the consent that these guys are going to have to test and experiment on themselves and have regrets. We see this happening now. So a good analogy of this would be, me and my brother from another mother were talking about this, and he was laughing and I was laughing about the idea that, well, you're not proper transgender unless you've done it, unless you make the leap, unless you chop it off. You're not. That's it. So I
that shit. Go on.
Yeah. So in that case, then commitment is key to a lot of this sort of stuff, and seeing it through to the other side. Because when you get through to the other side, you discover that you probably didn't want that anyway, and that's like emblematic of our society at the moment. That people don't really know what's going on. People don't even know what sex they are anymore.
That's one of the things that I had a conversation with a fellow on George Orwell's 1984. I first read that book, I want to say maybe 3 years ago. I never heard of that book. I didn't know. You may be looking at, you're 41 years old and you don't know who George Orwell was. That's the damn truth. So you can make fun of me for that. Whatever the fuck.
None of that. I'm still finding classics today that I should have read 40 years ago. 40
shit.
Years ago when I
told you I interviewed John Barber, who fucking interviewed Jim Garrison, became good friends. He's 93 years old, and he was throwing out names to me. He goes, I met with so-and-so back in 73. And I'm like, who the fuck? So don't shit on me for not knowing these people. But George Orwell's 84, I only found it, and I'm going to mention it again. So if I mention it again, you tuned in, you are a hardcore Wheezy follower, so you guys won't mind. But George Orwell's 1984, read by Stephen Parker. It's 10 hours long. I encourage everyone to read it. Whatever your opinions may be on George Orwell after the fact, that's completely irrelevant. It's a great piece. But what I'm trying to get at is, I only discovered it a few years back. And as I read it, and as we went through what some may call COVID-1984, you can't help but see the resemblances to the change of definitions, whether it's the change of what is a woman. When you have half of the population that can't answer a basic ass question as to what is a goddamn woman. When you have a change of definition,
a woman is someone who chops off their cock. Go on.
and you have a change of definition of what is a vaccine. In Orwell's 84, when Winston is getting fucking crucified, tortured up to the gills, and they're holding, I can't remember. Was it 5 fingers they're holding up? And they're like, 2 + 2 is 4. And they're holding 5 fingers. Like, he's seeing 5 fingers, and he's forced to say that the answer is 4. This is kind of where we're at right now. So Orwell may have gotten it wrong in the year being 1984, where it's COVID-19 2020. But other than that, I mean, goddamn, that book hits so goddamn hard, and so many other books have been have ripped off the Orwellian storyline and made off their own storylines. But when you want some real shit, man, you got to read George Orwell's 1984. What is your thoughts, Johnny Vedmore?
It might not be 1984, you know. It's the thought that it is 1984 because that's all that he knows from what he remembers. But it could have been that he grew up in a world which is 2150 or something, and it's called 1984 anyway. And there's so much to that book, but so much to see nowadays in how information is being destroyed.
When did you read that, Johnny?
I watch that all the time. I read the first half of it, saw the movie about 20 times, read the first half again, saw the movie about 20 times, read the first half again.
You just kept stopping.
That's where I got.
What year was that?
I got terrible with certain things. I think we got told to read it sometime when I was in college. But I don't know. I was probably like early 20s.
Oh shit! Did I lose you, Johnny? Johnny! One brief second, y'all. Johnny just froze up on me. COVID 1984. We're talking about that.
I just didn't want to read.
Oh, hey, Johnny.
Upon us. So we read a load of things.
Can you hear me, Johnny?
School. We didn't read we didn't read
Johnny.
1984. There was a Freudian slip because we were reading Mice and Men and a fair few others that were really, really good. Machine Gunners. Oh god, I'm losing.
Johnny, can you hear me?
But we didn't read 1984. But it was it must have been when I was in my early 20s where I first read 1984.
Hey, John, could you hear me right now?
In a minute.
Yeah, we're having audio technical difficulties. Johnny can't hear me right now, so he's adjusting his microphones. I will cut this out for Spotify and Odyssey 100%. But as you guys can clearly see, I could not hear him for like 10 seconds. So we must have had some kind of technical difficulties. He'll be right back. He is. I think if you can hear me, Johnny, right now, I think it's all cleared up because I was able to get you back, even though you disappeared. In the meanwhile, Missy says, wave at him. All right. Johnny, I can hear you in the background, bro. I can hear you in the background. If you can hear me, we are back online. What's up, La Tourist? What's up, Circus Squirrel? In the Mofo House. Yeah, we're having technical difficulties. Maybe it's us talking about Orwell's 84. Can't talk about that. But Johnny, if you can hear me, we are back online. Oh shit, look at the fucking camera. All right, here we go. Look at my fucking gray hairs. I don't give a shit. Talk shit all you want, you know what I'm saying? I'm fucking getting old. I'm 41, man. I don't give a fuck. And I'm drunk, so I don't give a shit. Latour's put a bloody hand. I think that means good games. Johnny, I can hear you in the background. Latour's Viva, the handsmaid's tale continues to freak me out. Yeah. To be honest with you, I think the Handmaid's Tales was predictive programming. There he is, Johnny motherfucking Vedmore. Dude,
man, sorry.
We were talking about Orwell's 84 and the stream just cut out.
Yeah, I had like funny things.
Oh, fuck. You froze up again, bro.
What was happening there? Yeah, basically, I must have been about in my early 20s. But I mean, it's not necessarily Orwell that like woke me up to everything, because I had loads of things happen in my life that was already like Orwellian. There was loads of points where I just felt like, something was wrong, and especially September the 11th stuff and stuff that happened around there and things that happened in my life around that time kind of led me down to learning all of the lessons that were reflected in things like 1984 and other things. But there's not anything like when it comes down to like the movies, famous movies and or the famous literature in time, there's nothing that really woke me up necessarily. Like they're all little things, aren't they, that kind of like planting something in your head. There was nothing that made me go boom. It was like a load of my own personal sort of dilemma, I think, that really led me down the path of waking up. So I have access to all this information. I've watched and read loads of this stuff, but I still, it's always got to be that you kind of like take in culture in loads of different ways and you see what the output is, and the output is nearly always the same, and we all get there in like completely different ways. Oh man, all of those people scare me so much, all of like, because they're all like Fabian sort of people as well. There's a load of like weird clubs behind the scenes of all these people that gave us all of this dystopian horrific stuff that is happening in front of us in all different types of ways, because in that sense like 1984 could be the telling of the same story that's happened over and over again, and they've burnt the truth so much that they're pretending to burn the truth. They're not even burning the truth anymore. They don't even know it is. They're like simulations. There are 1,000 simulations down. They've simulated that it's 1984 so many times over because it's more comfortable, and simulated to burning a truth, even though they don't even know what truth is anymore. So they just go around in a cycle. Some of that though, when it comes out in the real world, we kind of compare it to these novels and how dark everything is, but you can have all of the color around you, and if things are dark and dystopian, you feel awful and you feel sad and you feel scared and you feel afraid. It doesn't need to be explained to you in a way that you're only in gray. We got dark and dystopian all around us all the time, but we can still see things as colorful and bright and really nice as well. In 84, what's the level of that? Is it, we can look at it just mainly as metaphors, or are we looking at it as final destination? Are we looking at it as something that was the author looking at it like that? Was thinking, that's where we're going to be in the future? Or is it a metaphor for everything, that every part of it is for how we destroy information, how we get rid of the truth, how we control speak, and describe to other people how people fit people up. So the actual like culturally significantly it's had major effects. His work had major effects on like our sort of independent truth community, such a significant effect that we are probably a piece on the Orwellian chessboard. In that sense, we are the people who are fighting against the doublespeak, and we're trying to say let's have an agenda of real truth and what is truth, and etc. But it is like, when it comes down to, I have to admit, what I really liked to read back in the day, because I mean, I don't know, it makes me think that maybe it was just because the internet had started being around when I was like probably about 19, 20 years old, that I could read little bits here and there, and I was always dyslexic. So I was always dyslexic. I was told I was dyslexic. They never did anything about it. They just said, oh, he can read very well, but he can't write very well. So it meant that, like,
boy, have you proved them wrong about that shit.
I don't know. I have to edit my shit over and over again. Yeah, and I'm really slow with different stuff. I know.
Everyone
but I know,
edits their shit.
It's
You
I
proved
had
them.
loads
You
of
proved them
struggles
wrong,
to
Johnny
get
fucking
there. Yeah,
Vedmore.
I had loads of struggles to get there. I know because the first person, Mrs. Martin, who called my mum into the room in school when I was about 6 years old and told her that I was dyslexic, she was very kindly. She wasn't thinking that it would get me down. She said I would be all right, and I have trained my mind up a lot, and I think dyslexia is something that is like can be overcome in many different ways. But I made loads of different mistakes. I was really behind on writing and how to write and do all of these things anyway. But not everybody's. I'm really like, yeah. I can't remember where we were going with this, but for me it was like I was just like I like to take in small articles, so I was much more a newspaper reader through most of my time and picked up a load of information through there. And of course, that information, loads of it is correct, of course, but loads of it is false. But loads of it later on turns out they shouldn't have mentioned that, or they shouldn't have mentioned this. And I used to work in hotels, and I mean, I used to gamble. I used to do loads of drugs. I used to drink all the time. At one point, I stopped for a very long period, but I was a very naughty boy in general. So reading wasn't something that I had a lot of time for unless it was little bits. But what we used to do is in nights, we used to get all the newspapers come in the morning about 6-7 o'clock, and so we'd spend all of the 5-6-7 o'clock, spend a load of time just reading quickly every single newspaper, seeing everything. I used to keep them after September the 11th. I was keeping the newspapers, and eventually the police raided my home because we were growing weed, and they didn't take any of the weed growing stuff. They took all of the newspapers. That's all they took. Like, it was very bizarre, and they were also about September the 11th. So very early on, I realized there was something going on. But I was watching things. I have to say that even when I was probably like just after September the 11th, I was so still in the zone, in their world. I really did think that going into Iraq was probably the best thing, and all of this sort of stuff. I had that in my head. I was only young. I was in my early 20s. I had no idea what was up or down, really. I like to think that I did, but I didn't. And I wish maybe people had put me on a diet of good work. Maybe people had taught me a bit about Marcus Aurelius, or they taught me about this sort of stuff, but they
Orwell's
kept
84,
that
man.
out of the curriculum. Yeah, I know, but they kept these things out of the curriculum on purpose. When I was looking back and thinking earlier of what we were taught, as I was trying to answer this question, I was thinking, were we taught? Oh, well, where was the first time? So the first time that I heard of 1984 must have been when I was a kid watching the movie over and over again. There was certain movies that I watched over and over again, and were really, some of them were really bad movies. One of them was Poltergeist. I used to like Poltergeist. But as a kid back then, you could also go to the local video store and you could rent out 18 and say it was for your parents, and the Indian guys or Pakistani guys who owned the store would be like, yeah, whatever, we don't care, we want your money. And so that was the way it was back in the day. That was good. Those were good old days. So I used to have some really dark movies, but that was like one of them. But working out when I actually sat down to read it, man, it's kind of like when I got into my late teens was the first time that I could pick up books that I wanted to pick up, and I ended up picking up something that's behind me. Actually, you'll probably see behind me a couple of Bill Bryson books here and there. I liked reading more. Like I'd read all of the dark stuff online, and then I'd read the happy stuff in books where it could be taken away a little bit, and I'd see all of the articles in work. That how we consume information, that changes as well, because eventually people are like, oh, you have to read it, so you have to read this or you have to read that. And my friend Laura, who's one of my bestest friends in the whole world, we had this same conversation. And when we were first speaking, I was trying to think about this, and that I was like, I've read half of it here and half of it there. I've never read it all the way through, but I watched the movie over and over. I know the story, but it's like I start reading it and I get so stressed out, and there's certain things I get stressed out like reading or consuming, so I can only seem to get through half of it. So she gave me a copy.
I'm gonna send you the link,
right.
Johnny.
No, she gave me a copy that's actually right by there,
but
that I have to get through. But
I'm gonna send you a link. That's cool and all. Whatever you choose, you need to read the whole thing. The link that I'll send you is on YouTube. It's read by Stephen Parker, a fellow Brit with a deep, bassy voice, and he puts sound effects. So if Winston is in the town square, you could hear like a crowd. If he's going, if he's walking around and some glass breaks, you can hear that. It's like listening to a movie. It's 10.5 hours long, but my God, it is the best read you're gonna go through, man. And it's a great listening experience, especially when you put it into context, into the present day. You know what I'm saying?
That's it. That's one of the first. I heard it in an audiobook form. Maybe the first time that I heard it all of the way through. I might because back in the day I used to download loads of audio books like right at the start. I love thinking about these sort of things. It's so distant. From the memory now. You know, you get up into your early 40s and you start to I'm going through information all of the time, and I push out loads of stuff and I forget what I was doing here, what I was doing there. People ask me certain things, I'm just like in wonder. I look back and it opens up a part of my brain which like ends up in loads of different areas where of inspiration and like wires that have tugged me and like pulled me in different directions. Yeah, very self-reflective. Sorry, I may have smoked too much weed.
I'm drunk as shit, bro.
Good.
But I'm trying to hold it together. Don't ask me to do a walking the line test because I fucking failed it. But I'm at home, so it's all good. You know what I'm saying?
Good.
I told you, bro. You told me you were gonna smoke a spliff, and I said I'm gonna drink some motherfucking beers, and that's all there is to it. And I'm sure this ain't gonna be. I mean, fuck. We're hitting up on 3 hours. I'm gonna let you go, bro. Cause, dude, I feel like we could go another 3 hours.
Yeah, cool, man, cool. Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like we could fucking do marathon podcast, bro. Just talk all kinds of shit, bro. And people will tune in. Let me tell you a quick little bit. Longest podcast I ever did was 11.5 hours.
Holy hell.
And I did it with the one and only Brian fucking Harvey of E17. Me and Brian Harvey went 11.5 hours.
That's a long time.
This is when I had my YouTube channel before I got banned by Sean fucking Atwood, that pussy ass motherfucker. Fuck Sean Atwood. That's my public service announcement. But when me and Brian Harvey was doing a live stream, dude, I was like, there's no fucking way people are going to listen to 11.5 hour podcast. Immediately after that podcast was uploaded, I had comments like, oh man, that was the best shit I've ever listened to in my entire life. And then this is no lie. This is 100% truth. I can't back it up anymore because my YouTube channel is fucking deleted. But over the course of the next 2 to 3 to 4 days, I was getting comments. Shit, it took me 3 days to listen to this. It took me 4 days. It took me 5 days because people were listening to it in a couple of hour chunks. Like, man, I freaking loved every minute of it. And that's the thing, man. Like, you may think people will tune out. This was my preconceived notion. I was like, there's no fucking way people are going to listen to a 3 hour podcast, let alone a 5 hour, 6 hour, 10 hour, 11 hour podcast. And then when the YouTube metrics came in for that month, I had, what was it? 1.3 million minutes watched, which and I could be getting it wrong, but when I did the math, it was the equivalent of any person sitting down in front of the TV or computer watching YouTube for 24/7, no breaks in between, 24/7 for 2.5 years. And I was like, man, that was beyond humbling that people were willing to tune in to that kind of shit. And so I feel like I want to cut you off, man, because I know you got a family and you got other shit.
No. I got what I got. It's a little naughty dog who's grumbling at me. She's really peed off right now.
Yeah. No, I got you, bro.
She's telling me exactly what she wants. But I was actually gonna ask. So what is it that you actually like? What's your thoughts on Sean Atwood then? Maybe a dangerous question.
Oh, see, I never bring it up unless my guest brings it up. If you look at it, go back and watch the intro. I have at the very beginning of the intro. Well, I have a little podcast commercial that encourages people to give me a 4-star, 5-star review, preferably 5-star review on Spotify. But then I go into my intro, and at the very fucking beginning of my intro music, it's Sean Atwood saying, "Down with Wheezy, down with what is truth," which he said on a podcast right after he took me off of YouTube.
Wow.
So, having known nothing else about me, let's say you don't know shit about me. Who's this Wheezy? Who's this What is Truth? As soon as the reason I added that to my intro music, and I don't bring him up at all recently, but I'm glad you brought it up because a lot of the people that's gonna listen to this podcast is from the UK. They already know my fucking plight. Sean Atwood fucking struck me out. So this motherfucker that comes off with a fucking bald ass head. Hey, Jeff Epstein. Hey, we're gonna do a podcast on Jeff Epstein. Fuck you, you lying piece of shit. You're a fucking fraud. Fuck your mother. Fuck your brother. Fuck your daddy that made your fucking YouTube channel. Fuck you, Sean Atwood. Because I know he's gonna be listening to this because I'm talking to a fellow Brit. I haven't talked about Sean Atwood in over 2 years since I lost my YouTube channel. And he always tunes into my shit, man. If don't be surprised, Johnny, if you get an email after the show. Hey, Johnny, this is Sean Atwood. Would you like to come into my show? He's that motherfucker. Every time I interview someone, you'll fucking try to get him on the show. Fuck that guy.
Maybe I should have. I have a couple of issues with Mr.
You have a couple issues with Sean?
No. It's not any issues. He hasn't got any issues with me. Well, he's purposely not had any issue with me. I think there's been not one like a little bit. I think he follows me out now on Twitter
because you've been hanging out with me, bro. He follows.
Maybe.
He had Corey Hughes. Hey. He knew me and Corey Hughes was real fucking tight, man. Me and Corey Hughes were like lube and boners.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's accurate.
Listen. I think there's things that are going to happen in the future that are going to lay cards down on tables, and these cards I know are going to provoke certain responses from certain characters. The thing is about irrational and rational agents is that once you know somebody, you can treat them as a rational agent, or once someone's shown themselves, you can see them as a rational agent. So how Sean Atwood will respond is all independent, but I think likely he'll continue to do what he's done so far, which is ignore my existence. A lot of people ignore. He's
gonna ignore you now because you've been associated with Wheezy, man. He fucking hates me with a passion. Why? When you talk about hate,
reason? What did you do to make him so angry?
Here's what I did,
What
bro.
did Wheezy go and do? What did you go
let's go, Johnny.
Did you suckle on his mum's nipples or something? Is that what you did? Sorry,
I probably sucked on his prostitute's nipples.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
okay. So there's gonna be. So my demographics have changed. All right. When I have my YouTube channel, the people in the live chat right now, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They don't need a backstory. So this is for the people that don't know the backstory. This YouTube channel has 2,000 followers. My co-host, or my co-host, whatever, Chancer, he's a Scottish fella. He had 11,000 subscribers in 6 months. We covered Sean Atwood's bullshit in the truther community. What we covered was he had, you know how he gets these fucking guests and their sad stories. Pour out your heartstrings. James Esposito, who's probably listening to this fucking podcast right now. If you're listening, fuck you. That's his cameraman. All right. I'm a cameraman. That motherfucker. All right, here we go.
Wait a minute, his camera's mainly stationary, isn't it?
No, it's this little fat fuck with glasses. I'm gonna get this video now is gonna get strict. He hits me with fucking.
Man,
he hits me with.
You don't have
reliable.
to continue, but I like it if you continue.
If you don't mind, I will continue because there's people probably listening like, why is Sean Atwood? Oh my gosh! Why in tarnations is Sean Atwood on Wheezy's video intro? Here's why. Let me explain why. And maybe it's time for the fucking world to know, because a lot of people are going to watch this Johnny Vedmore stream. Johnny Vedmore gets a lot of attention. He is a respected and well-known journalist from the UK. And I'm not just smoking shit up his ass. This is a verifiable fact. Google Johnny Vedmore and it comes up. His website comes up.
Musical. It says it's the first thing it says is musical artist, because I like to concentrate on my music.
Images,
Once upon a time,
you had a fucking afro, bro.
Well, close to an afro.
Yeah.
Unwashed long hair basically turns into the same way. I'm Celtic. I'm from Wales. I mean, we had this shit a long time ago. But in actual fact, African people have been appropriating our culture for years. You know.
Yeah. Look. So listen to this. Johnny Vedmore is a verified fucking badass. Verified fucking badass who is asking about Sean Atwood. I don't talk about Sean Atwood a lot anymore because I feel like it's kind of like soap opera bullshit, you know? And so I don't bring it up. But I do feel in deepness of my heart that people need to know the truth about this motherfucker, because he's a fucking charlatan, man. There's so many fucking charlatans in this truth business that carry on putting off fucking suit and tie. I'm like, oh, I'm talking about Jeff Epstein and Maxwell, and I'm talking to Mr. Francesi, and I've got a YouTube channel with fake subs. I probably only realistically have 80,000 subs, but my YouTube channel states that I have 700,000 subs, and thus I am legit. Fuck you, you lying ass charlatan, man. This is the guy that took me out. Think about this, bro. I'm ghetto as fuck. I'm American as fuck, and my audience became 95% UK talking shit about Sean Atwood. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Because they knew I was telling the truth, and only one motherfucker had the balls to talk shit on this fucking charlatan. So now that we're on this, we're on the Daddygate channel. My Daddygate channel, go to if you're on my Daddygate channel, go to my playlist. You can see the entire layout, scientifically, methodically laid out on Sean Atwood being a goddamn fraud. So here's a quick gist of it, so that I don't just overtalk about you, Mr. Johnny Vedmore, because you are a true bitch.
You go ahead.
But Sean, this motherfucker had this guest that was supposedly violated, was supposedly mistreated, all this nonsense.
Little blonde baby with
her name was
little blonde lady with autism. Is that the one?
Callie Diamond. Callie freaking Diamond. You already know, Johnny. So Callie. Did you see my videos?
People.
This was
before No. Hey. I see everything through an investigative eye, and I am. What am I? I'm an I'm it's been a long time I've been investigating Epstein and stuff like this. I started investigating this sort of stuff ages ago, and I started watching all of the channels and watching all of the stuff and trying to understand what was going on and who was telling the truth, who was lying, and who was trying to make money off the whole thing. I know what's
You know what's up. I know what's
going on in the entire scene, but things will happen in the future that will have knock-on effects that will draw the lines themselves. I don't need to draw the line. I don't need to say I'm on this side, I'm on that side, because the other people will eventually draw those lines for me. Once their allegiances are tackled by my very soon coming work, and then the cards will fall where they may. Where they may, and I can imagine what that means. I can imagine.
You know what, Johnny? That's fucking awesome, man. Because one of the discouraging things for me personally has been speaking with people that you and I'm not gonna say the names, but you and I have mutual contacts with. The reason I blew up into the scene, the reason people know Wheezy and What Is Truth, is because I unmasked who this Sean Atwood character was. That's what made me explode too, because I never thought about doing a fucking podcast beforehand. I had followed Epstein was what brought me, what made me dig into finding out more. And then when I see this bald dude that wears a suit and fucking tie and talking about reading, not talking about reading Daily Mail articles, not even doing any fucking research on his behest, he's just reading fucking Daily Mail articles. I was like, all right, you know what? I don't have time to read this. This guy's reading it for me. Fuck it, let's go with it. But then when I started figuring out about, you just brought up Callie Diamond, the autistic chick. I interviewed her, bro. I'll send you the fucking interview. This whole thing became a story of its own. She had a fucking adult work page. Wow, she was a guest on the Atwood. And then she came on my podcast talking about banging out Atwood and how he likes big black rubber things shoved up his rectum.
I might have heard little tiny bits of this.
That was me. So the biggest exposure.
That was me. What, the rectum? The thing that got shoved up his rectum? No way! No way, dude! That was you. No, that wasn't me. What I meant was, good. Glad to hear.
I know what you say, man. No. I know what you say. No, what I meant to say was, me and my buddy, my Scottish fella, Mr. Chancellor, we were the ones who exposed this guy for the charlatan that he was. And so, even though I haven't talked about him, or I've talked about Sean sparingly, the reason I put him into my intro, it was twofold. I wanted people to dig into themselves, it's kind of like doing investigative. Why does Wheezy always put in Sean Atwood talking about down with Wheezy, down with What Is Truth? I want people to dig into it on themselves. I don't want to be a little bitch talking about it every goddamn episode. That's not, my life doesn't revolve around that. My life revolves around more important issues. That's 100%. But at the same time, I don't want people to be like, oh my God, I follow Sean and he seems like, okay, bro. It's a fucking fake ass facade, man. Wake up from that shit. Fuck that guy. Fuck all this nonsense. Follow the truth, man. We just had an exquisite conversation on what is truth. Verify your shit. Constantly question shit. Don't take shit at face value. Always reassess shit. And get to the goddamn truth. Don't just let the fucking bow ties and shiny ass bald heads. That's why I don't fucking have a shiny ass bald head. My shit's, I got the 5 a.m. shadow because I'm telling the motherfucking goddamn truth. You know what I say, Johnny?
Is there a 5 a.m. shadow like shave? Is there an actual one?
You have to, man, because if you can see the fucking wax and the light fucking beaming off your fucking bald ass head.
If you
You're
go
lying.
too
You're full
low,
of shit,
you
bro.
prove you just do not know. That's the rhyme for it. That's the rhyme for it. For sure. Listen, fella.
Yeah,
I
man.
tell you, this whole thing is really interesting. It's a point in my life where I've gone through, and I've enjoyed watching loads of Sean Atwood. I enjoyed it when him and Sonia Poulton got together. I thought, oh, thank God.
Sonia snitched on him. Sonia snitched on him.
Hey, Sonia's
On
I like
BNT,
Sonia
on
very
BNT,
much.
bro.
Sonia's my girl. I like her. She's
I
really
like Sonia.
nice.
I like Sonia. She
I'm going
called
on
him
there
out.
soon.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to talk over you. I get a little caveat. I get a drunk and I get a little hyper and I get a little too accelerated and I cut off my guest. And I don't want to. I didn't mean to do that to you, Johnny.
No, I don't expect to speak first. Go on.
No, bro, you're the fucking guest, bro, and I just cut you off. But no, I just want to say the caveat. Like, I'm not shit talking Sonia because she did expose Sean.
Mm-hmm.
She did expose him.
I like her. She's really nice. She's got a kind soul. I was just trying to think. I was just thinking, oh my God.
Let me have a hit of that, Johnny.
It's pretty strong,
that's hitting the lungs, bro. Let me have a hit of that shit.
yeah. It's just all. There's no joint involved in there. That's just all.
Oh
weed.
man,
It's
come
all
on.
good. It's all good. If you're smart, I gotta tell you, I like weed. I like weed. I won't do most other drugs these days.
We don't do shit to me, bro. Like,
yeah, man, I tell you what, there was this guy once upon a time, and I love him, Julian, who said to me, we were working in the Hilton together, and he said, when you stop smoking the weed, that's when you're gonna go up. That's when you're gonna be making that's when he said, I can see you've got something inside you. Once you start smoking weed, boom, you go. And I kept thinking, oh, I better not be anything. Like I'm not going to be anything. I'm just going to keep smoking weed because I like weed too much. But he was very much wrong. And I watched him go through some hardship through that time, and I kept thinking he should smoke weed, man. He wouldn't have half this problem if he'd smoked weed. But he was just, like most people. There's an idea. You get given an idea of what things are like by a world that's not true.
yeah, 100%. Johnny, I always love having you on. I'm gonna cut you loose, dude. We did almost 3.5 hours, man, and it just blew, man.
Good.
I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, but I feel like, dude, I could easily go another 3 hours, easily, man. Like the shit we can talk about, man, is off fire. Where can people find you, my man?
Best to go to newspaste.com, and you'll find everything there from the auditing. Oh, the fucking helicopter's coming to take me away now. Fucking bastard helicopter. Right, so I better be quick because they're going to be coming through the door anytime now. Newspaste.com, there I publish everything. Newshounds on there.
Wait, you can't say Newshound just like that, bro.
Newshound.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
News Pasty, which is a new show. This is going to be a week early for my Patreons. You can support me on Patreon and stuff. I've only got 3 patrons so far because I haven't done much with it because I've only just got it and I don't even know how to promote these things anyway. Who would pay a random fella like me to do such work? Well, if it's you, please do so. But basically, you can find me there, and there's loads of shows, loads of content. I try and introduce people to other people's work and other people's content as well. That's really important. Part of this is sharing the love and getting everything around, making sure everybody knows that there's people doing hard work in all sorts of places, and you might not agree with them either. You read some of the stuff that link you to, and you might say, I don't agree with this, and that's the point. You've got to be able to know what you agree with and don't agree with, to know your own position in the first place, and to be able to then solidify that and then go on to the next part where you say, well, how do we find the bit in between where everybody can be happy? So I want to create a platform that's a lot like that. So please come along, and Newspace Podcast, and thanks for having me on, man.
Johnny, man, dude, the pleasure is mine. Every time we roll up, I know it's gonna be straight up fire. Dude, you are truly a gem. So support him in all his endeavors. When it comes to Epstein, especially if you are balls deep into the Epstein saga, Johnny Vedmore, you can't mention Epstein without Johnny Vedmore, man. That's just the fact of the matter is. So support my man, support his work. It's true, Johnny. Like, I'm not, dude, you know what was interesting to me was earlier I asked you if you had read a book on Epstein and you didn't even know what the book was. And I didn't even feel bad about that because I was like, this dude is so balls deep into the Epstein saga that he has no time to read this fucking book. He's done his own damn research. He's done his own information. He's done his own background shit. He don't have time for this shit. And to me, that was like, oh, damn. So I didn't say it at the time. I didn't interrupt you, but I was like, ooh, damn, that's fire right there, bro. And so if you were listening to this, I definitely recommend checking out my man Johnny. He's on fire with everything that you heard today. It's not an anomaly. He's always on fire. One of these days, I'm gonna hijack my way into News Paste podcast, and we're gonna talk some shit together.
That'd be good.
I'm ghetto as fuck, but you know, I'll hijack my way. But JohnnyVedmore.com is where you can find my man, and then check out. From there, you can go to all his other work, his podcast. He's going to have a giant expose on Epstein coming out very soon, so y'all don't miss it. My man, Mr. Johnny Vedmore, it's always a true pleasure. Can't wait to do this again. It truly is fire every fucking time because you go wild, I go wild, and fucking there's no filter, man. That's what it is.
Yeah. I like it. Thanks for having me on, man.
My man.
Appreciate it.
No, appreciate you, bro. All right, my brother. You take it easy, my brother. Have a great day.
Okay.
All right. Peace and love. All right, y'all. That was my man, the one, the only, the myth, the legend, Mr. Johnny Mother effing Vedmore. Check him out. Description, all that jazz on the thumbnail. Thank you guys for coming out. It was truly a exquisite time. Much love, hugs, and kisses.
He's dead, so
My fellow Americans, I've said on several occasions that I wouldn't comment about the recent congressional hearings on the Iran-Contra matter